Hello and welcome to the next X-Men panel discussion and review. Today we are continuing with X-Men Days of Future Past from 2014. Patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani if you'd like to contribute to the channel. We have multiple tiers such as exclusive access, early access, and requesting videos for us to do. Twitter.com/G_Androzani if you'd like to get in contact with us or see what we're talking about. Or see our, memes about the new Rise of Skywalker poster and trailer, because that was funny. We have Callum, Callum who thinks it's pretty funny. And we also have Anthony who also thinks it's pretty funny.
It's pretty good. It's pretty laughable.
Yeah, evil C-3PO. But enough about that. We will get to that later in the year. About 3 months from now, at least.
Yes, we will.
Oh, yes, we will.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we will. Darth Droid. But that's not the topic of today. Today, we are talking about the film X-Men Days of Future Past, which is a film that neither Callum or I had seen before today. But Anthony had, I believe you saw it once in the cinemas when it came out,
Yeah.
Anthony? Is that correct?
I did. Yeah, it was in
Okay.
the cinemas when I saw it.
Okay, then. So, we'll start with Callum. Give your 2-minute initial thoughts on the film X-Men Days of Future Past.
Right, going into it, I assumed that this would be a very, very plot-changing film for the whole franchise, and I was right, as it's an entire reset, basically, of the entire X-Men franchise. And the film itself, going into it, I would say, compared to everything else, I had quite high expectations for it. I think it was the one that I remember we said last week that it's the one film that I've been looking forward to watching the most. And for me, it didn't disappoint, to be quite honest. I actually had a really, really fun time watching this film. I think its plot, is quite interesting. It's not what I expected it to be. I think the time travel element was actually handled pretty decently, I would say. I think comparing it to other time travel films, I thought it was pretty clever, or different at least. And I think all the performances in this film, I think almost every actor or actress in this film was pretty damn on point. Couple maybe not as good, but I don't think that's a detriment to them. And I think this is just a fun, exciting film, and it changes a lot about the franchise, and I'm wondering how it's going to be going forward. But just overall, I actually really, really enjoyed this film, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it as well. But yeah, I think this is probably for the first time I can properly say that I think this is a really, really good X-Men film.
Out of the ones we've reviewed so far.
Yeah, exactly. Out of the ones we've reviewed so far, in order, I would say this is my favourite so far, and I think it is the best one I've seen out of the ones we've seen in order so far.
Right. I'll go next because I haven't seen this film before either, and I'll let Anthony go last because he has.
Yep.
So, this is no Avengers Endgame, but
Oh, no.
that is a very, very high bar to accomplish. But with that said, considering that this is an X-Men film, I think it's actually very good. Considering the fact that it's coming off the back of a franchise that has so many issues, so many problems, so many setbacks, and so many things that make it lacking in certain areas. From the point of they had to take a franchise that had already had a whole bunch of stuff set in stone and make something out of that. I thought they did a fantastic job. I think that this film's time travel element was handled really well. I think some of the character storytelling in this film was explored excellently. And overall, very enjoyable, very entertaining, and probably the best one we've reviewed so far. I would say this is probably... I don't know if this is a controversial opinion. I think this is probably my favorite film we've reviewed since Spider-Man 2. Oh no, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Probably my favorite film we've reviewed since that one.
Mm-hmm.
Because
this is the first time I've thoroughly enjoyed watching the whole film
Yeah.
from start to finish since Into Spider-Verse.
Now, to be fair, I will say that it didn't bring as much of a sort of there's a side to the Wolverine from last week that was quite special that this film doesn't have, but overall I think this film was better than the Wolverine just because it had more going on, more story, more basically more everything, and accomplished a lot more. But I will say the Wolverine there's something about it that I really liked. But yeah, overall I really enjoyed this film and can't wait to get into reviewing it. Your turn, Anthony.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I was actually surprised how much I enjoyed this film. A lot of these X-Men films, I kind of, before watching them, I'm like, oh, yep, I've got to prepare because this isn't going to be, that great. It's going to be maybe like a C grade type movie. But this one is actually surprisingly really good, and I'm glad I haven't seen it since the first time I've seen it because I'd completely forgotten most of like what happens in most of the characters, their character-driven plots and their aspirations in this movie and all of that. I think a reason like that I've forgotten is because honestly, the ones with these actors like James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, for me, they've all kind of melded in my mind before rewatching them, of course. So coming back to this one was super cool because it is actually one of the better X-Men films. And I was happy to see that the number of like characters they explored was pretty large, but for the number that they went through, it was pretty well done all around.
Yeah, I would say that unlike some of the other X-Men films, which were very poorly handled in terms of its focus, I thought this film did a really good job of having a whole bunch of characters, but they all got a very good amount of focus to them, and it didn't feel like any of them really got left out. Obviously, there are some that got left out, but the ones that they chose to really focus on, usually the ones that were part of the past, or they were in the past and the future, tended to get a lot of good focus, and I really appreciated that. But yeah. So we'll get into those characters. We'll start with Logan, aka Wolverine. Callum, you go first.
I think Wolverine is very entertaining in this film. I think he's like, we always say this, like he's probably the favorite part about the film, but I wouldn't say he's my favorite part about it. But he definitely is like, this feels like he is at his peak in terms of fully focused, fully ready to fight for the cause, and it's very entertaining to watch him sort of be like what Professor X was to him in the first X-Men film. It's like really interesting to see how he's developed as a character, I'm glad that
I'll just cut in quickly
by the end.
I'll just cut in quickly and say one thing. I think the reason why is because, like for example, when you watch Avengers, like say for example, take Iron Man, right? Iron Man in Avengers doesn't have an awful lot of screen time, but he does. You do feel a lot of the sort of subtext of what he's doing, mainly because you've watched his solo films before watching Avengers. So you get this, and because we got an entire film based around him in the Wolverine right before this one, we got an entire layer of character development building into this film. Once you get to this film and you watch it with Wolverine as the main character going through this time travel thing, I really like the fact that all of this stuff that we got in the previous film before this has led into it, and you get a whole bunch of additional stuff that happens within the story that's branching off the one we just watched. So I think that's probably why he's so good in this film as part of the unit, because you've gotten context.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's just like And I do like how by the end of the film, even though the entire franchise has basically been reset, he hasn't lost what's made him become the person he is at that point, because obviously with everything else being reset around him, he still holds the memory, so he still is a character that remembers. So unlike other stuff where everything is forgotten and it doesn't matter, it still matters because we have a character
Exactly.
coming off that.
Because
So it doesn't make
in
it
Origins
pointless.
he forgot, and it was pointless.
Yeah. Here, he remembers, so he still has all those characteristics and those plot-changing elements to making the man he is. They're all still there. Just everything else around him has changed. So yeah, that's how you should do a story with a reset. Make it sure it isn't pointless.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's our biggest argument for Last of the Time Lords, isn't it? The fact that all of Martha's family and the Master and the Doctor all remember it, which has an impact on the characters when it's all reset, because they all remember the whole year of hell.
Yep.
Anthony, your thoughts on Wolverine?
I thought they it was because even I like that scene where he wakes up in the past and he shoots his claws out and they're bone. I even forgot that whole ending from the Wolverine. So I was as surprised as he was. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's right. He got his shit cut off and all of that. But no, through the movie, I think it was like you guys said, it's a continuation of that character, and you can kind of see he takes the piss a bit more, and he's just like, aha, funny. Again, that scene when he wakes up and the guy's like, "Oh, you've been sleeping," and he's like, "No, I wasn't." Well, yeah, I'm sleeping with her, but fucking,
Yeah,
it's a bit, and that's not a bad thing either. It's just kind of. It's nice to see the development from, like you were saying, it's nice to see a development from a solo movie, not completely just thrown in the bin.
absolutely. I would agree with that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and interesting you said that about the claws, because I actually, when I watched that scene, I actually forgot that he lost his metal in the Wolverine.
Yeah,
What I thought it was when I saw it was that he traveled back in time to before he had his
He
metal
got the
put on.
metal.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He does no
is it?
because remember, Magneto says in the film in the past, "Say, if only you were made out of metal." Because
Yeah.
at that point in time, it was before all the metal. So in the
Right.
future, he still has the metal, but not a part of his claws. It's still the bone claws, like in
Yeah.
Wolverine.
I see.
But
Okay.
in this film, when he's in the past, he actually has no adamantium in his body at all. That's why he's so weak.
Yeah,
Like when he gets attacked, he's very he gets attacked and he's a lot more vulnerable. And that's why I think I like that, because it meant that in the end battle he wasn't invincible. He actually lost.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Magneto made easy work of him, just stabbing
Basically,
him
yeah.
with all the. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think it's a really good bit of storytelling. It's also a nice twist, because you would expect in a film like this that Wolverine would be going, "I'm the main character, therefore I win the last battle."
Yeah.
But what it really shows to me is it showed more just his contribution to the fight rather than him being the overall winner. Like the fact that he had to lose so that
Everyone
with
else
the
won.
other characters could have their moment with the ending.
Yeah.
And the fact that he sort of had to drown to save the day, in a way. He didn't choose to drown, but that's what happened within the story.
Yeah.
But I really like all of his interactions with all the characters. And yeah, just overall, I think having the Wolverine come right before this was a really good segue. And I think I'm sure there are some people that hate the ending of this film just because of what it does, especially if they were a big fan of the original trilogy. But considering that I wasn't really, especially X-Men 3, I actually find the ending of this film very satisfying. Very satisfying.
Same.
Especially for Wolverine.
Yeah, like for me, like I really don't think the original trilogy, all three films, I do not think any of them are. I know some people are gonna love two. I know that's a big thing, but I really don't think they're great films. I think two is fine. I think it's good at best. I think one is it's the start, so you can forgive it for not being the pinnacle, and three is fucking terrible. So,
and then
look,
Origins
I'm really
Origins just makes it all
Origins, yeah.
pointless.
Yeah, it does. So like I'm fine with it being reset, but even then there's still a character who still remembers that. So it's still a part that existed. It just doesn't exist within the time of everybody else, if you get what I'm saying. There's still a character that has changed because of those events. So they
Yeah.
still matter in a sense.
In a lot of ways, I feel like the last three films, like First Class, Wolverine, and Days of Future Past, they all feel like they're trying to repair the damage.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
that's
absolutely.
what it was like.
doing a good job of it, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Really good job.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think as in terms of, like you said, the choice to have Wolverine remember everything that happened really gives a uniqueness to his character in this film. And on top of that, the fact that he was more vulnerable and he basically was more of like the sacrificial lamb rather than the hero. I found that very interesting.
Mm. Yeah, I just think that I like how different now Wolverine is compared to when we first saw him in X-Men. How he's
Yeah.
like now he's like he lives and breathes the
Such a
team
fleshed out
basically.
character.
Yeah.
You know, like
Like
it's
all the complaints we had, like he wasn't completely complete from the first trilogy. It's amazing how even just the last two films have properly like developed him like really well. So big credit to the writers for the last two films because they've really pulled out a great character that a full arc has been complete and he's now like a fantastic character now.
yeah, because before in the original trilogy, it felt more like his traits came from the comic adaptation, and what really carried it was the performance from the actor. But now he actually feels like a movie character. That's the final piece that they've put together, and it's really I really appreciate it a lot. I think I think that was a great move, especially considering that obviously I now have. Well, I suppose it's foresight or hindsight. I think it's foresight. The fact that I know that Logan is a thing, I feel like these films really pointed him in the right direction going into his sort of like conclusive like arc, if that makes sense.
Oh, lad.
Because I feel
Oh,
like
mate.
because I feel like if a film like Logan came right after X-Men 3, it wouldn't connect as well.
No, absolutely not.
But because they've done such a good job of, and especially because Origins really didn't do a good job either, it just made things a mess. But the fact that with the Wolverine and with Days of Future Past, they've really started to transition him into what he really should have been the whole time, and developing him into this fleshed out 3-dimensional character with so much experience, so much emotion, and so much vulnerability. It's truly, it's truly brilliant. I think it's excellent, and yeah, as soon as the moment in the film when I realized that it was Wolverine going into the past alone, like I knew it. I was like, this is going to be a good film. I knew it straight away. I'm like, I just know already because I knew. I'm like, yep, I know exactly what this is going to be. It's going to be Wolverine in the 70s meeting the cast of First Class, and it's going to be excellent because it's the combination of the two best things from the last two films we watched, First Class and the Wolverine.
And I think that's what people's reactions were when this trailer came out. Because I remember the trailer had it had the actors from the old trilogy and then the actors from the new one, and like everyone was freaking out, like, oh shit, how are they gonna like do that properly, you know?
Yeah.
What I do like a lot is the interactions between young Charles and Wolverine. I love their scenes together.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I love how they reference.
Yeah,
I love
okay.
how they reference the first class cameo of Logan. I love how they reference that. It's so
That
good.
was great. The only problem is that his quote was wrong.
Yeah, it was. But I find that still the implication is still there, which is still very funny.
Yeah. Just trying to think of other things that Wolverine was a part of. I'm just trying to think. It's like I'm trying to think. Like it's towards the sort of before the climax. I'm trying to remember where he's sort of placed. A lot of and during that time. Oh, I know exactly what it is. I just remembered. It's when they go to save Peter Dinklage's character from being shot, and he sees William Stryker.
And he freaks out.
Freaking out, and it becomes really messed, like with him and his time travel.
Yeah.
And then he forgets what's going on, and then he remembers.
Yeah.
And then after that, that's when he's with Magneto and Professor X in the plane, I think, around there, or maybe it's just before that. There's that funny line where he's like, "Are you gonna pick all that shit up?"
Yeah.
And what else? I'm just skipping forward slightly. I'm just trying to remember. There's how it transitions into the climax after that, because there's obviously the part where Magneto splits off from them. I feel like, at that point in the film, right before the climax, it's more just him trying to get all the pieces in the right place. He's not,
It is.
interestingly, not the center focus, and it was a really interesting decision, but it worked, I think.
Yeah.
And just seeing Magneto overpower him it was a really, really, like, biting scene, I would say, when the metal gets, like, pushed into his body and he throws him away.
Yeah, it was really cool. I liked that.
Yeah. There's another part to Wolverine that I'm gonna bring up more when we get to the music section, but I'll try and say that now so I don't forget later. But yeah. Anything else we want to say about Wolverine before we move on to the next character?
He's just great.
What were you going to say, Anthony?
Character.
No, there's always with this movie when he's like, "Oh yeah, I know someone," and he's talking about Quicksilver. I'm always like, was Quicksilver in any of the other movies? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. Like when he talked about it, and I was like, I don't remember him at all in the original.
He was in another film the year after this. And
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
weird how that works like that.
It's real interesting how it was like, yeah, I know a guy, and us as the audience are like, oh, who is he talking about? And then
I thought he was talking about Will I Am.
Oh yeah,
that's what I thought he was talking about.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, wait, he's not in this film, is he?
No.
Yeah, that was a bit contrived, I think.
Whenever that scene like happens, I'm like, shit, was he in like the first or the second one? Like, I never watched those ones. Was he in that one?
Pretty sure he might. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a slight chance he may have been in the background of X-Men 3, but I don't remember.
I don't think he would have been, because when this one came out, Quicksilver was like a center focus. We'll get to him when we do, but
yeah. Anyway,
it's just something I'm all like. Whenever I watch this, I'm like, I've never seen him before.
Also, I just remembered that Wolverine does have his metal claws in the future. So I don't know if they explain at all how he gets back his claws.
I mean, he just built new ones.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess he's got like healing, so I don't know.
Well, because at the end of Wolverine, 2 years had passed in the post-credit scene, but he still had his bone claws. So
yeah,
maybe they're an attachment, maybe.
Well, it's funny because like this film fixes one plot hole, but then creates another one.
In its path,
which is classic X-Men.
Cool. Even though like Wolverine never fights in the future, so there was no real point giving him back the metal. I find that really funny how this is a time travel film, yet like the big plot hole has nothing to do with time travel. It's just an error. No. Yeah. Oh dear. What a mess. Anyway, shall we move on from Wolverine?
Yep. Go for it.
So, as much as I love Wolverine, and always have, and basically explained why he's so great in this film, and why the last few films have made him so great, I have to say my favorite character in this film is Professor X.
Both of them.
Both versions. And the scene when past meets future X
that's
my favorite scene in this film. It is
me
so
too.
good.
It's the top tier
fucking
scene
great.
of this film.
And it's really a testament to James McAvey as well. The fact that he matches Patrick Stewart in a scene, like he matches them level, that's talent right there. The fact that he was able to do that is unbelievable. Anthony, what did you think of X in this film?
Yeah, I really liked it. It was interesting. I picked up on something that I'd never had thought of before. So he's obviously got this whole, like, I need to take these drugs so I can walk kind of thing. And there's the scene where I think it's like just after Logan goes into the mansion in the past and he's like, oh, yep, we need to do this. And then he's like, what? Why can't he read my mind or something? And then Beast is explaining it to him. It's the way it's like directed. It makes him look like a fucking drug addict, because he is, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he's taking shit to make him walk again. I thought that was an interesting kind of parallel to like an addict. I hadn't picked up on that previously. I mean, the only time I've watched this was the first time I watched this, so I didn't pick that up the first time I watched this. But rewatch, I was like, oh shit, this dude's an addict. Like and I thought that was cool that it was kind of like maybe 2/3 of the movie, and he's like, no, I don't, like, I'm not gonna use the stuff anymore. I'm gonna like deal with my pain and all that.
Yeah, so one of the things that I love about not just First Class but this film is the way that it makes past Professor X such a flawed character. And
absolutely.
what this film does really well, especially with the scene I was talking about, because with First Class, as I was praising the fact that it adds context to Professor X from the original trilogy, but with this film, you actually get a scene where past meets future, and Professor X from the future feels so connected to this past character now. You can actually feel the exact same flaws within the future X just under the surface. The fact that it's more of a memory now than his actual personality. I think that is such a wonderful bit of storytelling. Just what this film does for his character is brilliant.
Well, that whole scene, not all of it, but like a little bit of it, when he's looking right at him and he goes, please. That was like the end cut of the trailer, and I remember that's why everyone was like, what the fuck, what is going on? That looks really cool, but I don't understand, how can they do that? That was like the little like bit at the end of the trailer that everyone was like, oh shit, and like it's such a good moment to kind of not tease all of it, obviously, and obviously the context in the trailer is like, what the hell, I don't get it, but in the movie it's like, just like, oh my god, that's really, really cool and well done, and well placed too. When he's he doesn't think he's able to use the Cerebro, so it's just really well done.
Yeah, and I really like the scene when, like, the fact that he's agreed to this, like, this sort of rescue mission for Magneto. But even though he's agreed to it, as soon as he sees him, he instantly gets triggered and punches him right in the face.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a knee-jerk reaction because of the fact
squares
that,
him,
this guy, like, has made him paralyzed.
Yeah.
Just from, like, a stupid mistake.
Yeah.
It's this thing that you just don't forget.
No, well, yeah, he wouldn't. And he didn't.
And yeah, just overall the whole the fact that they kind of sewed up that massive plot hole of him being, paralyzed in First Class but standing in Origins, like, they kind of fixed it. Just the only thing that I'm thinking is, so at what point does he did he stop taking the serum?
Well, in Origins, he still uses his powers and he's walking. So
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's still
Then-
fucked. But now
Yeah.
it's been reset.
I know there's another film that like dwells on this, and it's like that movie was a piece of shit. But I like to the ends of putting it out of the continuity. I have no idea. I don't think I can't remember if they
So
do it.
So I don't know. So here's the thing. Here's my theory. Here we go.
Okay.
How about here's my theory. So the reason why he stops taking it in this film and gets into the wheelchair is
Yeah.
because Wolverine was there, right? But in
For the cause, yeah.
in the non Days of Future Past timeline, that didn't happen. So he kept on taking the serum till he was a bit older, and then at some point before X-Men 1 he stopped taking it, but we don't know why.
Yeah.
Or it just stopped working for some reason. Or just
Maybe.
Beast stopped making it for him or whatever. But it's not explained, which is obviously not good storytelling. But that's what happened off screen. And now that
Yeah.
Days of Future Past has happened, that has been reset. So that never happened.
Yeah.
So Origins never happened. Yay!
Mm.
Or at least it didn't happen the way that the movie tried to tell you it happened.
Yeah.
So
We'll have to see
There's-
going forward if it ever gets referenced at all.
Yeah,
yeah, so obviously at the end of the film, Wolverine and Professor X had that conversation where it's like, we got a lot of catching up to do. So I imagine there is probably, most likely off screen, they're going to say, oh, what's the actual continuity? But we won't know because it's going to be off screen, and that's stupid. But
yeah.
so going forward, there's a big problem. But
Mhm.
within the context of this film, it does actually fix some things, I suppose. But yeah, I suppose the serum in general was kind of just a plot device to have Professor X not just been paralyzed for the whole film. He could
Yeah.
actually do something.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think it was also like possibly they were like, oh, if he's just psychic and like really smart, this whole plot is down the toilet because it's just like, oh, just find them. Oh, there you go, you found them, paralyzed them. Yep, just stop them. Okay, that's the end.
yeah, so they found a way to weaken his strengths and strengthen his weakness. I don't know. Is that the way?
Well, it was a big character kind of building for this for Charles Xavier, and at the end of it, it's he's a much you'd hope he's a much wiser version of his younger self.
Yeah, I imagine the for like all the fans that have been watching for so many years got like a massive like jump of joy when he went into the room from the original trilogy where like it's like the silver dome room with like where he puts the head on. What's it called?
Yeah, the Cerebro.
Yeah, the fact that young Professor X goes into the Cerebro, I bet that's like one of those scenes that fans were like giddy about. But yeah. And I love the ending where he basically like his ending where he convinces Mystique not to shoot the
Yeah, that scene is bloody great.
Yeah.
Just the actor is so good throughout this film, and there's so many scenes where he is like on point and he's like on fire, and his performance is like incredible.
It's even better than First Class, which is insane because he was great in First Class.
He was great in First Class, but he really stepped it up in here. Like like we talked about with the scene between young and old Professor X, like that is like a fantastic scene.
This
both
completely
actors
goes beyond what it was before, because before it was I like that this younger version of Professor X is flawed and different and is like its own sort of separate character, and it's really well done. But what makes this film better is the fact that it actually makes him feel connected to the Professor X from the future. That is really, really difficult to do, and they've handled it really well. I think that for me, that's what really pushes him over the line. That's what makes Professor X my favorite part of this film. It's such a good bit of storytelling.
Yeah, definitely.
And you really and you really feel that ending scene where he's talking to Mystique when she's got the gun. He feels like Patrick Stewart's Professor X in that scene. The performance to me really feels like Patrick Stewart's Professor X, and I bloody love that. It was wonderful. Yeah. And that's about it. That's about what I've got to say, basically.
I think his interactions with Eric are great as well. I love how the first time he sees him, he just punches him in the face after saying, "I'm not a violent man." It's just like that's funny, but it makes total sense. His obviously conversations with him on the plane are great, and I'd love Magneto's like rebuttal against him. He's like, "You weren't there either," and he obviously nearly crashes the plane. Like, that's a great scene. Just throughout the entire film, I feel like Professor X is like he's overcoming something. Like what Eric says, like you're using a serum to hinder your power just so you could walk. It's like that's everything that Eric is like against, like hindering your power so you can act normal. So it's great, like storytelling for me. I just love it.
This is such a good sequel to 3 different films. It's like a sequel to First Class. It's a sequel to The Wolverine, and it's a sequel to X-Men 3. Yeah. And it does it so well. Like that. By all accounts, it should have been an absolute mess, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. It was fun, entertaining. It was very emotional as well.
It's not only a sequel to those 3 different films, but it's also a time travel film as well.
That doesn't have that many like problems with it.
Yeah.
Like, because of the way the time travel works, it's like, it's subconscious is how it works, and that's about it. Like, as soon as, like, he comes out of it, everything changes.
Yeah, because I thought, going into this film, I thought there was going to be, like, it's going to be, like, one of those ones where they travel back in time and there's multiple versions of themselves, and it's just going to be really stupid. But because it was only Logan, and he traveled back to his own past, and he was the only version of himself.
And so, his past body as well, yeah.
That was really good decision making, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It makes it so there's less problems in the time travel, and they don't have to overcomplicate it. It's very simple, really.
Because the thing is, like, we've all seen Back to the Future, we've all seen Bill and Ted, we've all seen Doctor Who. The fact that films like Days of Future Past and Avengers Endgame take a different type of time travel to suit the story that they're telling was really smart, I think. They told it the way
Granted, this has less problems than Endgame does with its time travel rules, but yeah, both are like.
To be fair though, Endgame had to do a lot more. Endgame had to do a lot more.
Oh yeah, it had to do.
And I'd argue it did do a lot more as well.
Yeah, and the fact that if you went by these rules, you wouldn't get scenes like Cap versus Cap. You wouldn't get like all the great comedy bits, like when Iron Man has to tell Ant-Man to kill Iron Man.
Yeah, unplug my reactor.
Yeah, you wouldn't get like America's ass. You wouldn't get Hulk not being allowed in the elevator.
Yeah.
But the choice in Days of Future Past to make it only Wolverine and have him go back into his own body was really smart. I love the fact that he just wakes up and he's like in bed with a girl that he wasn't supposed to be in. And it's like, it's just great. Anthony, anything else you want to say about Professor X?
No, I think you guys have said it all. I mean, it's the closest we've seen of what's his name? The closest we've seen of James McAvoy to Patrick Stewart's Professor X, which is the closest we've seen to the comic Professor X. So in that logic, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, Anthony, would you say like you take the 2 actors, you combine them together, and that's like what it's like, what the comics is kind of like, somewhere in between the 2?
Yes, because in the comics, like the older Professor X is a bit of an asshole sometimes, but we have that with the younger version. If you kind of catch
Yeah,
my drift there.
because
And
it's
that
kind
really
of
makes more
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Because I just think with the films, like Patrick Stewart's such a likable and charismatic actor that's hard to sort of see him in that light.
Yeah, yeah,
But now with James McAvoy's version, doing the other side of it and combining them together, I think is
yeah.
really awesome.
Well, as one character, yeah, absolutely. It fits together nicely and it works, and you kind of go, oh, yep, you go, that's
Yeah,
a character, but that's like a relatable character now.
yeah.
It
That's
gives it
the.
a bit more depth.
I was speaking before about characters not having to like deal with other versions of themselves. That was the one character that they chose to do it with, and
Hmm.
it was the a great choice.
Yeah,
And I like how when he sees his future self, it's not one of those stupid like time travel things where it's like, oh, you have to contact your future self to do your past or some bullshit like that, like something that Moffat would do, where it's like, oh, very clever web of time, where the Doctor is going to meet another version of himself to find out how to do the plot, and it's just some bloody exposition dump of time travel bollocks. It's not that. It's a moral thing of future Professor X and past Professor X coming together and figuring out what to do based on like moral values and character growth. That's a much more interesting part of it than just
yeah.
fucking
It's
like, oh, you must go back in time and do this and do that.
Well, if I may, it's I can think of another kind of time travel where they meet each other, and that's Star Trek. The Star Trek time travel shit that I've seen is really just like Spock sees older Spock, and it's like, ah, did you do this? No, I didn't. Ah, whoops, sorry. Aha, funny. I shouldn't have told you that. And then he goes and does what he said to not do. And it's like, okay, so he's a plot device. That's it.
Mm.
Whereas this is like character building and a plot device, but it like adds depth to fucking like three different characters and just adds everything to everything in a positive way.
Yeah. Right, shall we move on to the next character?
Yeah.
Okay. Eric Lineshare, aka Magneto, and once again, both versions.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that this film makes past Magneto. So we were talking before about how with X, it's like it makes the characters feel similar, like
Yeah.
very close. I
Yeah.
love the fact that this does the opposite with Magneto, where it makes the past and the future one feel so different. But
They
the
feel like
reason,
different characters.
but the reason
Mm.
why they do that
Yeah.
is they show how long it took for Magneto to finally come back to Charles.
To realize,
You
yeah.
get that beautiful scene at the end where Magneto basically gets stabbed, is on the verge of death, and he shakes hands with him.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
And that's contrasted with whatever Magneto's doing in the past, like this horrible thing he's doing.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
ah, fuck you guys, I'm gonna do it this way.
It's obviously jumping between time like 50 years, but it's such a great expression of character development.
Mm.
Mm.
And I think Michael Fassbender, just like in First Class, has a brilliant performance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a. I thought it was in this movie, but it's not. There's a scene with him that I fucking love. I'll mention it when we get to it. But there is a scene with him that I remember very clearly, and I watched it on in the cinemas, and I was like, "Yo, that's fucking really good development." But
Yeah.
in this film, I liked that technically, right? Eric Lenscher and Charles Xavier are, in a sense, two sides of the same coin. Whereas, like Charles Xavier's or used to be, helping these mutants with their powers and all that shit. Whereas Eric is like, after they break him out of prison, he's like, yeah, I was trying to save the president because he's a mutant as well, and I was looking for these other mutants and they killed them all, and that's why I was, in jail because I was fucking angry because they killed these mutants, and that's not cool. And it like in that scene, both Charles Xavier and Wolverine are like, oh shit, like that's kind of a fair point. Killing people's wrong, but like
Yeah,
they're
so
fucking with mutants,
well, you got a point there where the sense is that sides of the same coin in the sense that they both X and Magneto are trying to do something good for the mutants. It's just that the difference being is X wants to do it with education and like with just a more sort of constructed, safe environment, whereas with Magneto is he wants to act revenge and aggression, like a threat to the humans.
Yeah.
And I think that is where they differ so much. But like I said, because you get that parallel from the past where he's like that, but then you also get the future version where he's come around. It's very satisfying.
Well, I like that they did that as well, because in the comics, Magneto's not just like, I'm this asshole who can move metal and I'm gonna fucking hurt people. You know, it's actually like, okay, like people are really racist towards mutants, so like fuck them. I hate people because they're like real, racist and they fucking kill mutants and all this. Whereas Charles is like, yes, they're racist, but we can make them not be racist by being super, like helping them and shit. And it's Magneto almost has this point of view when you can sort of relate to him. Like it's like, oh yeah, I guess if I was, different and people were like abusing different people, I'd be like, yeah, fuck them, cunts,
Yeah. Callum, what did you think of Magneto in this film?
Yeah, like we mentioned before, I love the contrast between the two versions of him. Like, it's nice to see like Ian McKellen's version of the character, like fully back on Charles's side. It's like you can see like how well they work together and how much chemistry the two actors have together as well. They're just great together. And I love. It's the same with the others as well. That the other version of Professor X and Magneto, how their chemistry works as well, but how different that version of Eric is. And I love, like, of course, like, he was going to like turn everything against the humans and use what he could to his advantage. Didn't expect him to use a whole like stadium to box everyone in. But like, I love the. Like, again, it's like you understand why he's doing it because he wants mutant rights, but he's doing it in the wrong way, which is, again, just shows you the fundamental problems with Magneto as a person. He's like doing the wrong thing to do what's right. That's what I love about the character.
I feel like he's always in the political side of these plots. He's always the chaos every time. Yeah. He's always just like, screw your debate. I'm taking over and doing what I think is right.
Yeah. Well, he's like, I'm going to do it this way, and they'll see. And he does it, and everyone's like, whoa, shit, what are you doing? Like, he's fucking hurting people. And he's like, no, you'll see. And it's like, dude, this is not the way. Like, people are getting hurt.
Yeah. What were you saying, Kellen?
I just think, like I love like I said, I love the contrast between the two. And I just think that Eric in the past is like, I like how now, going forward, it seems like he might go on a different path now because obviously Charles let him go at the end, and I did expect him to like restrain him and he get locked up again, but I'm surprised that he was let go. But like that, Charles gives a natural reason for both him and Mystique to be let go, so they can change for the better, basically, after the events of what happened, especially after Mystique stopped Eric, but then did not shoot Trask, like changing the future for the better. I loved that whole final like sequence of events. It was very well done, and I loved just how it was done. I think it was pretty much spot on with how I wanted it to end. Yeah, I think Magneto is like a great character, and I'm interested to see what they do with him going forward.
His aggressive nature in the final act, I found very intimidating. He was, you could see he was a man on a mission, and his power was just unstoppable, almost. It was very like, and the motives behind it, the fact you got an entire like 90 minutes of character, well, maybe not that much, but like a whole hour with him before that shows why he gets to this point of aggression, I think is really good. And like I said, obviously the fact that it's mirrored with Ian McKellen's Magneto in the future, who is doing everything he can to protect Logan and Professor X. It's just such a brilliant showcase of character development. And like you said, it's interesting to see what happens now because obviously the Magneto's path will have changed. So there is a certain there's a certain kind of unsurety to what happens from here. But yeah, really well done, I think. And I think it's also quite it's quite a nice twist because the exposition at the start of the film set up Mystique to be the main villain.
Yeah.
And whilst she certainly is a big part, the fact that it halfway through the film Magneto took control of it and became the main villain of the film really was well handled in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
This is such like a unique film in so many ways.
Yeah.
It's very different to a lot of stuff I've seen lately.
Yeah, and I can only assume this will probably be Ian McKellen's last proper performance as Magneto going forward, going from the list of films that we have left to watch. So, and I think that I'm glad he fully realized like his character basically going back to side with Charles. I think it completes a nice arc that he has got on. I do like one of the only things I liked from Last Stand was when he lost his powers, he sort of learned like humility, basically. Obviously getting his powers back, but he had that sort of realization of, no, what I'm doing is kind of crazy and I'm in the wrong, basically, and I need to... That was the change of him, and you see that in this film with the very few scenes that you get with him, with Patrick Stewart, but they're still great scenes. So it was nice to see, and if this is the last performance we get with him, then I'm happy with it, because I think it's a really good performance.
Ian McKellen was excellent. In the few moments of screen time he had, because he didn't have much, but in the moments that he had, he was really good. And I also want to point out that, like, you know, X-Men: The Last Stand really tried to make it feel like the sort of X-Men Civil War film, but it really fell flat. Whereas I feel like this one does it so much better. Yeah. It does an X-Men Civil War, but it's based around the characters and not around this big battle.
Yeah.
And it's so much more interesting than just, we're going to put them all on Alcatraz and have a massive fight, and then it ends with Wolverine killing Jean. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Sure. It's actually, like, properly well thought out.
Yeah. Still not as good as Captain America Civil War, but...
Oh, no.
But for an X-Men Civil War, it does well.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, again, as always, those three characters tend to be the highlights, and I just think this film really brings them to a whole new level. All three of them, Wolverine, Professor X, and Magneto.
Yeah, definitely.
They all feel like, I mean, I would say Magneto feels almost pretty much complete as a character. Professor X basically feels connected and arguably complete, and Wolverine feels so brilliantly developed. And going into Logan, I feel like I'm ready for that film now. I'm ready to see that film now that I've gotten this one and the last one. So hats off to them for those three characters. They did really well, in my opinion. Now let's move on to Raven Darkcomb, aka Mystique. The first thing that I'm going to say is, I think Jennifer Lawrence's performance is so much better in this than it is in First Class.
Oh, it's 1,000 times better in here than
it's so much better. Yeah. And I think part of that might be to do with the fact that it's been 10 years and she's not a teenager anymore.
Yeah.
So she's not trying to act young. But man, is this an improvement for me?
It really is. Like this is like probably one of Jennifer Lawrence's better performances. This and like Catching Fire. I would say
I haven't seen Catching Fire. I haven't seen Catching Fire, so I don't know what she's like in that. But of the films I've seen her in, I would probably say this is probably my favorite of hers. Like, this tops Hunger Games to me.
Definitely the first one. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she actually properly shows that she can act. She can have a good performance in multiple films.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
to be fair though, you gotta remember that First Class and The Hunger Games were a few years before this, when she was still a sort of rookie
yeah,
actress, just coming into her own as an actress. I
yeah,
think it was around this time that she really started to develop and become what she is now.
yeah,
And I was very impressed. Because I remember in First Class, I was always thinking like she has nowhere near the same like level of charisma that Rebecca Imogen had in the original trilogy.
hmm,
But I feel like in this film, she finally earned it.
yeah,
And that's not
definitely.
just to do with the fact that acting is becoming more accurate to Mystique that we know, but it's also the writing. The way her focus in this film, I think, is really well handled. And obviously, the very ending with her is so good. When she's holding the gun and she drops it, like that whole scene for me is just a brilliant scene. Very unlike what you would expect from that character as well. Makes her feel more human.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, but yeah, Callum, were you in the middle of saying something there?
No, I was just like, I think that Mystique in this film is like, I would say pretty. You can relate to her in her position. You understand her motivations. They make sense. Her actions are what you don't agree with. But unlike how as soon as Charles shows up again, like she kind of like changes basically. So like she's reminded of like what she once was, and is like, and I do like how at the end Charles says like basically like for years been trying to change her or like control her, but like, and I like how in the end Charles is just like, I have faith in you, having that belief in her, and that's what makes her change the future basically. So I think that was very well done between those two characters. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that that was handled very well. And the stuff with Eric, I was surprised that they did a not like the big twist, but it was like a twist that Eric then tried to kill Mystique because he's just like, now like you're gonna kill us all, so I now need to kill you. So it shows the level of like madness that Eric is on
Mm.
for like to fight for the mutants' cause is like he'll do anything no matter what it
Mm.
is. So that is like, and that changes their sort of relationship between the two. So that's a nice. I think that was handled pretty well, and it was kind of surprising as well. So not something I was expecting. But yeah, I think Mystique in this film is done very well, and I think this is probably one of the best uses of her in an X-Men film. I would say, fine. Like I would say, this is the first time where she has a good performance and is important to the plot. Because I don't
Yeah.
think any of the original X-Men films did that, but she was
Yeah.
still
I would say
entertaining.
she's very good in X-Men too, but not quite as character driven as she is here.
Hmm.
Because then you get First Class, where she's very character driven, but her performance isn't that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way this film subtly references the three different sort of romantic things she had in First Class. With you sort of had the one with
Hmm.
Beast. You had a bit the weird thing with Magneto, and you had also had the sort of friend zone relationship with
Yeah,
X.
the friendship that she
I
has with
like the way
Charles.
this film references them in face-to-face meetings of all the characters she meets in the films, but it's not
Yeah.
overdone.
Yes,
It's not
not.
overdone.
It's done really well, I would say.
Yeah. Um, Anthony, what did you think of Mystique in this film?
Uh, so I was super worried um, on initial kind of rewatch because I thought, oh shit, they're just gonna like shove her in and be like, oh yeah, she's the cause of everything. That's why it's all going to shit. They didn't. She was more of like a B plot, even a C plot, but still pretty important. Like her story was important, and also character development. You know how I love that. In terms of like you guys said, in relation to everyone, like with relation to Beast, and well, she didn't really interact with Beast, but his, growth, opposed to her, like he's like, oh shit, she's doing this now, we gotta help her. Versus her and Charles, where Charles is like, most of the movie is like, I need to control her and I need to do this, and then at the end he's like, nope, you can. I've helped you this far, you can do the rest. I've taught you, and also Magneto, who fucking shoots her, and then he's like, "Yep, I gotta
Oh,
kill you for the
that whole
good of."
scene when she's jumping out the window and gets the bullet in her leg, and then Magneto jumps down and is like pulling her by the bullet. It's so agonizing, and the fact that that's then followed up right after by Beast trying to suffocate him in the water, like drown
Yeah.
him.
Well, I found when Magneto's stitching his own head, I found that painful to watch.
Oh,
It just hurt. It was like, no, I can't. Assumingly with no anesthetic or anything either.
yeah.
Just stitch my head. No, but I liked how she, like I said, she was like maybe the B plot, but she was also good development for other characters as well as her own.
Mm.
And it was very well done. And then in the end, when Professor X is like, "I've taught you enough. You can figure this out on your own. Make the right choice." And she's like, "Oh shit, yeah, okay."
Yeah. I have to say, I did cringe a bit when it did the flashback to the kids scene from First Class, but that's not really their fault. Like, it's child actors. What can you do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and they didn't want that. Thankfully, they didn't linger on it too long. They just
No.
mainly had it as
yeah,
audio. With
yeah. It's just kind of like remember that, and you're like, "Oh yeah, from
yeah,
First Class, I remember."
yeah. But to be fair, though, kids can be like that sometimes. Realistically,
Hmm.
they can be kind of awkward like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Again, flashing back to girl Mystique from First Class wasn't exactly flattering. It's a bit like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I think that this film's like it's not really their fault of the people that made this film, but the fact that this film had to flash back to other films to sort of make the plot fit together. It
yeah.
had to flash back to mistakes made, like when in X-Men 3 when it
Absolutely.
flashed back to when
Yeah,
Jean
yeah,
Grey dies. It's just like, oh damn it. It's the best thing you've got to do, but it's like, oh, you gotta, for continuity's sake, you have to flash back to the to the poorly executed
yeah.
previous
To the
content.
crap as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not their fault. Um, but yeah, I was very impressed the way they fit Mystique into the not only the plot but as a character as well. And like I said, Jennifer Lawrence's performance is a vast improvement on First Class.
Definitely.
She finally feels that was the one thing that I was worried about going forward is that I felt like is that because I know that she's like become the new cast for Mystique, like replacing Rebecca. I had a feeling that the character wouldn't feel the same going forward. But I feel like this film has changed my mind on that, and now I feel like
Mhm.
I can accept her going forward as the same character that we had before,
Yeah.
even if it is a different actress. So yeah, like not only did Professor X get connected, but so did Mystique,
Yeah.
and that was really well executed, I think. But yeah. So, shall we move on to the next character?
Hmm.
Yep.
Now the next character that's on Wikipedia is not at all a main character. Like she's probably like a D or even an E character. But
Yeah. Well, she
um,
gets a death scene, so.
I think you know the one I'm talking about. But because it's in order of whatever, and I don't want to mess it up and forget someone, I'm gonna have to do it in order. So, unfortunately, the next character we're talking about is Storm. So she gets a fourth film, and she still has no character.
She dies though.
Yeah. She's got a death,
No,
and
she
it's
dies
like
in the future, but then when everything gets reset, she's still there.
oh, it's
Mhm.
still a death. Same with Logan. He got a death in this one too,
Oh dear.
and then he came back alive. he drowned, and then it's like, oh wait, no, he's
I mean,
not.
it's just a meme at this point. She's no bloody character. Poor Halle Berry.
Yeah, and will absolutely probably be her last appearance, I can assume.
Mhm.
So her arc is complete of
What?
nothingness.
Why would you agree to another appearance after this? Like, fourth film, and you still have no character.
She literally meant nothing to the plot. She was just there.
Yeah, she was just there to be like, whoa, look at the Sentinels are a serious threat.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but like it's just funny how like for film like now her arc is complete of nothing.
Zero.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jesus. I suppose the one big positive you can say is that she got some cool set pieces in the action scenes.
Yeah.
Now that it's
Yeah.
2014 and the CGI can actually reflect her powers well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just an ongoing thing of Storm in these films is nothing.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah. God. Oh dear. Oh well. Hopefully she got a good paycheck, eh?
She probably did.
And I think
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that Storm does sell action figures, like, so there's probably some of that
Oh yeah,
too.
because it's a cool design. Just it films her character as poor.
Yeah,
Plus, she probably
in-
came back because Bryan Singer came back. Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
'Cause wasn't that a
in
thing
comics,
with
she's like one of the
Part
main
3?
ones.
yeah. She's probably, unless I can think of something else as we go through the film. She's probably like one of my biggest negatives of the film. But that being said, she's not really a big part.
No, it's just another case of you're just there.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's like Hawkeye and Avengers, but for 4 films. It's just unfortunate, you know. But we'll skip past her because what else can you even say? Okay, so we'll go to Hank McCoy, aka Beast. We'll start with Anthony. Oh, sorry, Callum, you go first. Then
I was just going to say before we start, the Beast design in this film is so much better than it is in First Class.
Yes.
First Class one
Agreed,
was so
yeah.
odd, and in this film it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah. So Anthony, what did you think of Beast?
I liked how it was similar to the Hulk and being in that, like he, kind of gets angry and goes blue and hairy. I did like how they didn't. I don't know if they were aware or they were like, we need to go the Hulk, but no, not 100%, because they didn't go 100%. Like he kind of. There's a couple of scenes of him changing, and you're like, oh shit, it's about to, shit's gonna go down. But he doesn't really, because that's not his character to get angry and I'm blue now. He just goes all, he turns into Beast, and it's like, oh shit. Which is, fair enough. And we got the kind of Beast versus Wolverine at the start of the film.
That was like probably one of the funniest parts of the film. I mean, obviously, I would say overall the funny, because obviously this is quite a serious character-driven film, but most of the funny parts happen in like the first act, when Logan gets taken back in time, and that whole interaction between Beast and Logan is very funny.
Yeah.
And
Well,
just like when
I love that.
When he's like, oh, we're going to be good friends in the future, and then he's like, with you? Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
I love the bit where like Beast gets angry and he throws Logan all the way onto the stairs.
Yeah, it's done very well and it's very funny.
Yeah. And I love the fact that it's like he's hanging off the chandelier and then X has to come in to stop him.
Yeah, he's like, get down from there, you fucking fool.
But just that whole door scene where he's like, oh, there's no school here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because then, like, Logan plays off this, and he's like, oh, you're a small guy. You're holding the door closed. You're a pretty strong guy for such a scrawny kid.
Yeah.
Also, I love the scene at the end where Logan wakes up in the present, and like Beast's walking through, and he's like, "Ah, morning, Logan. You're up early," and he like laughs to himself. I thought that was a really nice little piece of character-driven. Like, yep, we're good mates.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's like it ties into that whole thing of being a sequel to First Class, but also being a sequel to X-Men 3.
Yeah, yeah.
And making all the past characters feel connected to the present
Mm.
in some way or another. Callum, what do you think of Beast?
In the past, I thought he was, while himself didn't really go on a full arc, it was nice to have him around. It was nice to sort of see how he's developed since First Class. I think just I didn't really think much of him because I don't, like I said, he didn't really have an arc. He was just more like moral support for people like Charles, especially.
Yeah.
Because because at the beginning of the film when we see him, it's like he's sort of his carer at this point in time, and I think you get the sense of that, and I think it's done pretty well.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think he's cool in the action scenes without doubt, and sometimes a bit of exposition. But that's
I would say the best parts. Obviously, we could talk about the comedy at the start with Logan, but the other part that I would say is obviously I've already referenced it, is the scene where he tries to drown Magneto is very good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense because of the relationship he had with Mystique in First Class.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I love the fact he actually gets very close to doing it as well. I was actually worried. I was thinking, is Magneto going to die here and it's going to mess up the future? But then Magneto obviously bends the fountain's metal and traps him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Beast Manly was good for being obviously Professor X's carer. You got that built from First Class. You've got the interactions with him and Mystique, and you've also got him in the action scenes mainly. Just a good presence to have around. He's like the opposite of Storm, where he didn't get that much to do, but because he has character development, it fills the gaps. Whereas with Storm, because she has absolutely nothing to work off, it's just she's just there.
Yeah. And they're just like, oh, well, let's have her die, because,
Yeah. I feel like the success of both characters comes off whatever they were given in the previous films.
Yeah. Well, it has to. I mean, because it's building off of those worlds.
But anything else we want to say about him? Because he didn't do that much, did he?
No, not necessarily.
Then we obviously had Rogue, who at first when I saw her, I was thinking, is that a different actress? But looking at this Wikipedia, apparently it's not. Apparently it's the same.
No, it was the same chick, yeah.
But weirdly, looks different. I don't know how to describe it, but she looks very different to how she looked before. I don't know what it is. Her face, just I don't. Did you find that, or did you know that it was the same?
I kind of knew it was the same because I remembered her minuscule cameo. It was a cameo, honestly. It wasn't, she didn't say anything. She just kind of looked and went, yep, and walked off with the Iceman.
She seemed, to me, a lot more endearing. Because in the previous film, she had this whole attitude to her. It was a bit like, oh, God.
Yeah. I think that was the point, though, because the scene was everything's normal. And you kind of, the first thing you see is her, and that's a character who you reacted that way, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And it's it's going back to normal, and you're just going, oh, no,
Is it explained why she has that whole time travel power thing?
Who? Rogue?
No,
what?
Rogue doesn't have the time travel
Rogue
power.
doesn't
Ellen
have
Page's character isn't Rogue.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, sorry.
Ellen Page is Kitty Pryde.
Oh, yes, you're right, sorry.
Rogue is at the end of the film.
This is just like Wolverine when I got the politician mixed up with the bow and arrows.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was right then. Wow. So that means that Iceman left Rogue for Kitty Pryde. Does it?
Well, Yeah, because of what Rogue did in Last Stand, taking away her powers, she, I assumed, left after that because she obviously wouldn't have
Yeah.
been at the school. She has her powers.
Right.
Mm.
And eventually those two would have gotten together. But now, because of the reset, Rogue and Iceman are together.
Together
Oh.
Because
again.
Rogue never would have taken her powers away because no one would have hated mutants.
Oh, okay. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. That explains a lot. I feel dumb.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. Rogue was just a cameo and whatever the fuck. It was just.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you're talking about
I
Kitty
think
Pryde.
I do think there was a Rogue cut of the film. I heard.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know how much more she's in the film with that.
Right.
But
But we'll move past her because she's barely in the film anyway.
she's literally in one shot and that's it.
Yeah. So we'll move on to Kitty Pryde.
Okay. Yeah, I had an issue because that's not a fucking power she has.
Yeah.
To
So again, I'm
put
going to ask
people
the same
back in.
question. Is it
Yeah.
explain how she has the time travel power?
Nope.
Doesn't seem it.
Nope.
Right. So
Nothing.
we've now encountered our first big problem with this film. Aside, I mean, we obviously had the Wolverine claws thing, which was a bit stupid,
Yeah.
but I feel like this is the first big problem with this film. It's just suddenly,
Yeah. So how does your power develop from I can walk through walls or anything to I can send your mind back in time?
I think
Those
the
two
biggest
powers don't correlate.
like crime that poses for me is like, had you had Professor X do that, like the old version, that would have been a little bit believable. Like I would have been like, oh yeah, sure, he's a psychic, he can do that. But because you were like, yeah, like I'd be like, yeah, sure, that's believable. But they were like, oh, let's just give it to this chick because all she can do is go through walls.
But no,
it,
now she can time travel mind people.
it feels like there was an entire film missing between 3 and Days of Future Past. That's the only sort of big problem I have with this film, is the fact that it feels like it's jumped so far forward that it's not explained a bunch of stuff that's happened off screen.
Mm.
Because the only film we've had since Last Stand that is post that film is the Wolverine,
Yeah,
and that's it.
yeah. And it feels like there is a whole bunch of stuff that should have been in between that would explain a lot of the stuff that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I don't know what to. It's a bit of an awkward one because they needed some way of making this plot work, but I just feel like the fact that they chose someone just randomly to say, "Oh yeah, she has time travel powers now," it's a bit convenient.
Yeah.
It's very convenient. It's kind of, I guess in a sense, it is a plot hole because it doesn't make sense how she has the power.
Yeah,
And it's also a major convenience because the whole plot like depends on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose that's all we can really say because her character was only there to serve as the.
She was a plot character.
Yeah.
So
It's funny because in X-Men 3 or 2, I think it's
3 is when she's introduced.
Yes, X-Men 3, she was used as a device to make Rogue jealous. And now she's a device to make Wolverine travel in time.
Yeah. Well, I say she was introduced in 3, but she was in 1 and 2, but 2 completely different actresses.
Oh, yeah.
She has been played by 3 different actresses, so...
Yeah. But yeah. So I'm going to take back what I said about Storm. I feel like Kitty Pryde's probably the biggest problem with this film.
Yeah. It's just like, well, how do you go from walking through walls to time travel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is quite dumb. And like, if you've never seen an X-Men before, you're watching this as like a standalone, that would completely make sense. But
you'd be like, oh yeah, she can. Oh, so her power is that she can time travel minds.
Like, if you've only seen Origins, First Class, Wolverine, and this film, it would make sense. But if you've seen X-Men
if you haven't
3,
seen the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Yep. Very much.
Oh, dear. This bloody franchise. Oh dear.
Just make Professor Rex be able to mind control Logan into the past, and then that way it'd be easy. That would be fine because obviously Professor X and young Charles interact, so you could be like, that's the link between them, and they can, that'd be cool.
However, moving past Kitty Pryde and her problems, what do we think of Bobby Drake, aka Iceman, aka the Hunk? Because Jesus Christ, this guy's gotten handsome, like with the beard and everything. It was
pretty nice to see him again, Like I was surprised to see him again.
He feels grown up. Like he feels like he's become a man now, and that's.
I mean, I was like, wait, because obviously in the first 2 minutes he obviously died, so I'm just like, oh, they just brought him back to kill him off, but no, then they went to the past and then he dies again, but he's back again in the reset. It's just like, man, he dies a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like
again.
in the X-Men trilogy, you sort of get his development, and he's very much starts out as a sort of brash teenager. He's just a boy, and by the end of it, he's sort of grown into this sort of like he's around the age of 18 or 20ish, maybe probably 18, and he's sort of like developing into sort of like growing up. I like the fact that in this film you can see he's turned into a man now. Like he's a proper adult. He's very confident, very mature, and overall, just I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Iceman. I think I think the actor really pulled off, like convincing me that a lot of time's passed since X-Men 3.
What I do like about this film is that it serves as like a farewell to the original trilogy, I would say, and also the original characters, because it seems like going forward with the list of films that a lot of these characters, this is the last time you're going to see them. So like we're probably not going to see Iceman, we're not going to see Ellen Page's character, we're not going to see Storm or Scott or Jean. In terms of those incarnations of those characters, those are going to be the last time we see them, and those actors and actresses. So it's a nice goodbye in a sense. Even though I was never really fully connected to the films, it's still nice to have a farewell. So it's nice to see.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, again, I feel like Iceman feels complete. Like the way we were saying Magneto feels complete, it feels like the Iceman really feels complete now, and I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the first sort of 10 or 15 minutes of this film gave the future plot something to do before it kicked into time travel. Yeah. That actually gave them something beyond just being there to set up the plot.
Yeah.
And I really like the action scenes. I like that the film kicks off with a big fight, like in the future, with like all these, like all the stuff we've never seen before.
I was surprised. I completely forgot about it. And like when that action scene ensued, I was like, "Oh shit, okay."
It was very depressing as well.
Yeah, it was depressing, but it also like really helped the pace of the film as well. It got the ball rolling really quickly, and I liked that a lot. I appreciated that. And also the fact that it gave us some time to let the scenery sink in.
Yeah,
of how different it felt. But yeah.
Especially with seeing characters we haven't seen since Last Stand, it's nice to like get like a feel of like where everything is and get back into this sort of vibe.
Well, one of the biggest problems with Last Stand is that a lot of the ends of characters don't feel satisfying. They feel very stagnant and blunted. Whereas with this, you feel like those characters get a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah.
And I like that. In a lot of ways, this is basically X-Men 4.
Yeah, I would say so. It is basically X-Men.
Yeah. But yeah. Anything else we want to say about Iceman?
No, I don't think there's not much else to say, but I liked how you can see the development he's had in the two films before we was in, and you can see how he's become the guy he is now.
Mm-hmm. He's just got a great beard.
Yeah.
Like you can tell he's been in the wars.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. It's just unfortunately we didn't because it all happened off screen, there is a part of it that's missing. But yeah. Okay. Now we're going to move on to another character that was, interestingly, like, in terms of screen time, didn't have a lot, but I thought was a brilliant performance and a brilliant part of the plot, and that was Bolivar Trask, aka played by Peter Dinklage. We'll let Anthony start with this.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a good kind of like his first scene is when he's with the military, I believe. And he's kind of explaining why his sentinels are like such a good idea. And they're kind of just like, yeah, no, you're a crazy person. Bye. And he kind of like he says something, I can't remember exactly what, but it's something like, well, you'll know when you've made your mistake, because the mutants will fuck everything up, and we're like the Homo sapiens, which is us, are going to be fucked. And he's very kind of like, this is something that he's like he believes strongly in, and I think Peter Dinklage as an actor was a very good choice for that, for a character who's very driven on whatever he believes. Because I know in the comics, Bolivar Trask is like this fucking asshole guy. I'm just looking up.
Well, that tends to happen a lot in comic books, is like anyone who's not like completely white and clean tends to be an asshole. Like you've told me before about how like in the comics Iron Man's kind of a shithead and like not as enjoyable as Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. No, I was just looking up because I thought Trask was. I've heard that name in like Spider-Man comics, but I know that Spider-Man and X-Men comics intersect a lot, so it's probably the same guy. But no, and with him, the Sentinels as well. I was super happy with their design. The big kind of purple and white robots.
Everyone loves robots.
Yeah, exactly. And I think my picture on Skype right now is like the comic book Sentinels. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, I was happy with the like likeness that they have to those Sentinels. Because when this movie first came out and we heard like that was the plot, I was like, oh shit, finally they're gonna use Sentinels. I hope they don't just go, oh yep, it's a big robot. They'll do what the Wolverine did, be like, oh, he's a robot now. And they didn't. They went, no, they're big, they're purple. Got to keep that. It'll look nice, and it did.
Yeah, but going back to Bolivar Trask, anything else you want to say about that, Anthony? That specific character?
No, I think it was handled really well. A great choice of actor. I think Dinklage was a good. He brings the kind of like asshole, but also
he's such a good actor. He's such a good actor because he's physically very short, but his personality makes him feel bigger than what he is.
Big, yeah. Well, like I was gonna say, like again, not to the aspect of Magneto, obviously, but you because he plays this character so well, you're kind of like, maybe. I don't know. Maybe just me, but
yeah, Callum, what were your thoughts on Bolivar Trask?
I liked him as a sort of antagonist. I think so. He was like very different from I think most X-Men villains. It's like I do agree that Peter Dinklage was a great choice. I think this is the first time for me, because I don't watch Game of Thrones, that I've seen him in a proper full acting role. Because I don't think Infinity War really counted, because it was more like a glorified cameo, and he wasn't really properly acting. Because I remember I saw behind the scenes, he knew that he wasn't going to be the best actor in the film, or wasn't going to be a great performance. So for me, this is the first time I probably watched him act in a full role, and I would say he's really good.
He's bloody good.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And I think even this, I don't think it's him at his best, but for what he does really well.
He's such a good actor. And it's one thing that I found about Peter Dinklage over time with me watching him so much. Obviously, I've seen all of Game of Thrones, so I've seen a giant chunk of his work. Is the fact that when I first saw him, I was like, wow, that's one of the most like charismatic like midget actors I've ever seen. Like he's more than just like a carnival like sort of like dwarf. He's actually got a lot of personality to him. And then as I started to watch him more and more, I started to the fact that he's so small started to fade to the back of my mind a bit, because he's not just like a standout actor for his stature, like in his the fact that he is so small. He's actually become a standout actor in general. Like he's actually as good as people that are of a 6 foot tall height. Like he has the same presence, and that just shows how much talent he has. The fact that he manages to bring that much presence to a character, despite his physical limitations. I think it really is an inspiration. Like he's truly such a talent.
Yeah, definitely.
And the fact that he played such a minor role in this film, yet in every scene he's in, he gives such a great like performance, and really ignites the political side of the film as well. Like gives it an
really
extra layer. I just love how like he takes it seriously, but he's not like he's not aggressive. Like he's a very like I'm straight to the point character. And what I like about Dinklage is that he doesn't, because he's disconnected from this whole time travel plot, he doesn't try and feel like the other characters. He's his own character and his own story going on his path, and he's completely oblivious to everything that's happening in the film. So, like, obviously, when he's confronted by this massive thing in Act 3, he's very taken aback. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. Definitely, I would say.
And yeah, I thought Bolivar Trask was such a nice addition to this film. Like, it just cherry on top of the cake, honestly.
Yeah,
really well handled.
I think he's a very good actor, and he does very well.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, just overall, I've been a big fan of his acting for a long time, because no matter what role he's put in, he always delivers the goods. Like in the Game of Thrones finale was a piss poor bit of shit television. Like it was awful, but he was great in it. Like his performance completely stole the show. It just like his presence in anything he's in is so unique. So I really appreciate his casting choice for this character.
Yeah.
And yeah, really good stuff. Then we had Bishop. Bishop was... I'm just remember who that was.
The guy with the gun, and Storm electrocuted him and his gun powers up.
Oh, yes, that guy, yeah. So we have Bishop, yeah. I mean, I suppose he was sort of just part of the fight, wasn't he?
Yeah. Just
like cool superpower, stuff. You know?
He was one of those characters where I was kind of like, where does his power end and him actually taking damage begin? For example, if Wolverine got his claws and scratched him, would he absorb that damage and be like, yes, I can shoot this from my gun now? Or is it only like elemental damage that he takes? I was very interested. I'll never get an answer either.
Yeah, I feel like he was kind of like with a lot of the characters that surrounded Storm in the final battle bit in the future. It kind of felt like this is very similar to X-Men 3, except it's not overstuffed. They didn't have too many, whereas this one felt a lot more balanced. Like, obviously these characters don't really mean fuck all, like in the grand scheme of things, but in terms of just the action set pieces, it was nice to have just a few characters to focus on and have them do their cool power shtick.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, X-Men 3 was like just a fucking Royal Rumble, and it was an absolute mess. And a waste of money. Right. Then we had a very interesting character. We had Peter Maximoff, aka Quicksilver. So he's different to the Quicksilver from Age of Ultron, isn't he? Very different.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
same
very
character,
different.
But different telling of the character.
I feel like you almost have to like completely separate them, because the Quicksilver in Age of Ultron is more of like a tragic sort of. It's more of like a tragedy rather than like an actual character. He's sort of just like part of Ultron's villain plot, and then he's like, "No, I'm not villain anymore," and then he's like part of the battle, and then he dies, and that's it. Whereas with this
Yeah.
film, he feels more of a like more of his own sort of personality, and he's younger. He feels younger, and sort of,
Yeah, well, he is.
and he's American as well. Like he's not trying to be Russian.
Fuck. Yeah.
You didn't see that coming?
Oh dear. Yeah. What I would say about Quicksilver in this film is I feel like in the beginning I was starting to sort of think this guy's a bit irritating, but at the same time I feel like that may be part of the point. I feel like that was kind of intentional. Like he was supposed to be this sort of smarmy douchebag teenager
Yeah.
with like this running power, and he like steals TVs and plays video games, and um is very much like he's confident in his powers to the fact that when he freezes, like the time freezes, he's like got enough time to like lick sauce from the air and play around with the people with guns and whatnot.
Yeah.
What did you guys think? Ooh. What did you guys think?
Count.
Anthony, you can go first.
No, I really like because this is just like it's like a couple scenes with Quicksilver. I liked them. They were, it was nice to kind of have this younger, well, I mean, everyone's younger, but, you know, you've got like the kind of kid of the bunch. And, you know, his scene in that kitchen is very, very cool, very stylish. I remember when this came out, this was like the one scene that everyone was talking about. Like, oh yeah, the scene where he goes fast and everything slows down. That's really funny. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's still really just, you know, fun for me to watch. I was like, oh yep, here we go, the nice song, and he's just walking around.
It reminds me of Over the Hedge, when there's that like raccoon
Oh fuck.
that like
Yeah,
has ADHD or something and drinks caffeine.
that movie
Yep.
was completely deleted from my mind. Why did you return it there?
But
Yeah,
this is like the superhero version of that, and it's not like overdone.
no, there's I won't spoil it, but there's more to the character, and I believe we see that. I think I can't remember.
Interesting.
But, yeah, there's more to in the comics. I'm talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just interesting the fact that this and Age of Ultron came out like within 1 year of each other.
Yeah, and
Very
that
odd.
it did cause a lot of confusion for people because people were like, oh, there's a Quicksilver here and he's fast. Oh, there's a Quicksilver in this movie too and he's fast as well. Oh, that's interesting. They're
Yeah,
stealing characters now.
When Quicksilver came up in this film, I was like, oh, we're going to see Scarlet Witch as well. But no.
No, so did you know when he's watching Magneto on the TV?
Yeah.
Did you notice there was like a younger girl sitting on his lap?
I don't remember.
Well, his sister's on his lap, and it's
Oh,
implied.
right.
But you know, they don't ever. It's only him in these movies. So,
Okay.
and that's because Marvel coined
So
in
Scarlet
on
Witch was
Scarlet
in this
Witch.
film, but she was cameo.
She was child.
Mm.
But it was one of those things. It's like implied implications. Look, but you know, because Age of Ultron was the same year, I believe.
What was the year after?
Oh, it was the year after.
But
You'd assume Marvel had like rights over both characters, and they're like, we're gonna use them, so don't fuck around with them too much.
But Winter Soldier post-credit scene was basically the exact same time that this film came out.
Yeah, so that would have been Marvel like, we have rights to these as well, and we're gonna use this one, so don't fuck with this one. Because there was already confusion with the whole Quicksilver situation.
Yeah. But yeah. Callum.
Yes.
Quicksilver.
Yes. I pretty much agree. I like his obviously, I think the most famous scene from this film, for what I know, is the slowed down scene in the kitchen. And that whole sequence is great. It's very funny. It's very entertaining. And it's that sort of power done right, I would say. More so than I think like Quicksilver in Age of Ultron was. Even though Age of Ultron's version was more prevalent in the plot, this version is way more fun, is way more relatable. Because like, if you had that sort of power, you would do the things he would do, to be honest.
Well, the thing is, like, even though I have gone on record defending Age of Ultron to an extent, it is weird to see him and Scarlet Witch as villains. Like, that was a bit odd. But, you know. And unfortunately, because Quicksilver dies in that film, you don't really get much more development for him. Scarlet Witch doesn't really come into her own until Civil War, which obviously the Russos did a brilliant job with. But, yeah. But yeah, I liked him in this film, in Days of Future Past. It's just confusing because of how close it is. That's the only problem. I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just... I think for what he did, I was just entertained by it. So I didn't have much issues with it at all.
Yeah. But he sort of phased out of the film after they rescued Magneto anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's because he served his purpose, and I think they were just like, okay, let's not overuse it right now.
Yeah, unlike X-Men 3.
Well, you see.
But yeah. Oh, and one other thing, I love that he was wearing a Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon t-shirt.
I was thinking of
satisfied
Dan.
by that. Thinking of what?
I was thinking of Dan with his fucking shirt bought from Target.
Oh yeah, so we're going on holiday to Australia next week, Callum, and our friend wanted to buy some shirts for it, and like our friend doesn't he never fucking listens to rock music ever. He listens to like fucking drum and bass and dubstep and EDM. But he had to buy some shirts, and the only ones he found were like that he liked were like Foo Fighters and Nirvana, and he's just like, "Oh, I'll buy these shirts. They're comfortable." Like with
that. That's not the full story. We were there, and he saw them, and I was like, "Oh, those are cool." And he's like, "I should buy these to piss Connor off." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, Connor knows I never listen to these, but if I wear them, Connor's gonna freak the fuck out."
But that's not what happened. I was happy because I like those bands. You've been subverted.
No, well, because when we were at my house, you were like, "What's the surprise?" And we were like, "Oh, yep."
No, what would piss me off is if you bought me shirts of stuff that he listens to. That's really funny. That's what would annoy me.
That would be a waste of money.
Subvert your expectations.
Throw it in the bin. Yeah, it would subvert your expectations, but you'd throw them in the bin.
No, I wouldn't throw them in the bin. I'd probably wear them inside out.
It's a bigger subversion than evil C-3PO.
Oh God. Oh yeah, he's gonna raise the dead of like heaps of evil Ewoks, and they're all gonna kill.
That trailer is so over the top nonsense.
Oh yeah, so it turns out that C-3PO is actually a god. Like the Ewoks were right.
Yeah, and Rey's actually on the dark side too.
You know this.
And actually,
this really pisses me off because C-3PO was like my favorite part of the Last Jedi. Like the scene he had where he's like running away from Vader was brilliant.
That was funny.
The fact that J.J. Abrams is now going to ruin him, it just makes me so sad.
They've got to ruin everybody. They've got to ruin everybody.
Yeah.
One day, fucking Mulder said this, or I can't remember who said this. They will bring back Ewoks to ruin them.
Yep.
They just got to ruin everybody. Fucking thousands of Star Destroyers and lightning, so it looks cool, even though it makes no military sense.
Exactly. And I'm concerned for what's going to happen with Princess Leia, because I just feel like if they fuck this up, it's like kind of going to bad taste because she's dead, like that.
Oh, there was one scene with her. I did see that this morning, and I went, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Alarm bells went off, and I was like, "Oh shit, here we go."
Oh well, at least Harrison.
If Ray,
Ford at least Harrison Ford
if
isn't
Ray,
isn't a part of it because he's doing his new Indiana Jones bullshit.
I'm actually keen for
if
that. Indiana
Ray,
Jones.
yeah, if Ray's a fucking clone, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. What a
That's how
fucking stupid twist that would be.
That's how they bring Jango Fett back, and he's like, "Ah, my clones are very impressive, eh?"
Fucking Django Fett. Turns out Django Fett was in Ragnarok. Oh dear. I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
Can't wait for December.
Yeah, I can't wait till that review.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking
Oh,
hell.
fuck.
It's gonna be a juicy part of the
I'm
Bad.
literally I'm walking into Rise of Skywalker expecting it to be bad. I really
I
am.
think everyone is at this point.
If
Everyone
we-
is.
and
Oh
if we-
no, I've
after a
seen people
full-
who are losing their shit thinking it's all a fucking great trailer when half of it is like, hey, remember when shit was good? Remember
Yeah.
when we made good Star Wars stuff?
Yeah.
fools.
Like I know someone I've got on like social media on my Snapchat and stuff, and she's just like, I'm losing. Oh, I can't believe. Oh, this is so cool. It's just like, are you not understanding like what is happening? It's playing with your emotions on purpose. The half of that trailer.
I skipped that half because I was like, I don't want to fucking watch
Exactly,
that.
because it doesn't mean anything to the fucking other half of the trailer. It's like, hey,
Oh,
we
it's the
made good
conclusion to
stuff.
the whole story. Oh,
It was
fuck.
already
no, it's
concluded.
fucking not. Yeah.
Return of the
It's
Jedi was
concluded already.
Return of the Jedi was a conclusion. Come on, like
Yeah.
we all know that.
God.
But money.
But we need to ruin all the characters.
Oh dear. But yeah, if we review that film right after it comes out, it can fit into the advent calendar, and that'll be good.
Yeah.
Nice bit of sauce there.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll go
So
back to
this X-Men
yeah.
thing.
Usually it's like we're talking about a bad film and we'll be distracted by something good. Like, for example, we were talking about Origins and we distracted ourselves with Prisoner of Azkaban. Whereas in this situation, we're talking about something good and we're distracting ourselves with something bad. Like, what's wrong with us?
Yeah.
Bloody contrarians we are. Okay, so we'll probably move on from Quicksilver.
Yep.
William Stryker.
Yeah, he just sort of popped up at the end of the film, kind of.
And he was Mystique?
Yeah, at the end, yeah.
So
I was
Mystique...
very confused.
So I think what I gathered from it was, is it supposed to be Mystique is going to play William Stryker so that she can have Wolverine do the adamantium thing? Like, it all turns out the same?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
That
not sure.
scene still confuses me to this day. I saw it just now and I was like, huh? I still don't
I
understand.
would have been fine if it was just really William Stryker, because then that would
Yeah.
be like, oh, there you go. That's how he ends up, and that's how he
Yeah.
knows him.
Like, he still has metal claws and everything, you know.
Mm.
But rather it's
Yeah.
like, it was actually Mystique. A subversion once more.
You know, one thing that I just remembered is that this is the exact same ending to Thor: The Dark World. But the reason why the ending of Thor: The Dark World feels okay is because the rest of the film is terrible. So when you get Loki's little twist, you're like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then with this,
And I think
but with this,
Loki,
we've already gotten a satisfying ending, so that twist wasn't really necessary, was it?
Yeah. Sorry, wait. This wasn't the post-credit scene. This was the film. This
Yeah, I
was
know.
the end of the film. Yeah, my bad. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia thing, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh
no,
yeah, that was
the post-credit scene was something else that I have absolutely no idea what it was.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. I'm assuming it's building up to Apocalypse, I would assume.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably. Or maybe it means nothing, but who knows? Anyway. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, but William Stryker, yeah. That was a nice little thing.
Yeah. He was in like pretty much throughout the film, but I never knew who the character was, obviously until the end.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, not much else to say really.
No, he was just there.
I think my favorite part with Stryker isn't necessarily like the fact that he appeared. It's more the fact that when Logan saw him, he got flashbacks to X-Men 2 and Origins, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Yeah.
Because like the flashbacks to the Stryker from those films, and I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
And obviously the cutting as well in that scene was really well handled. It actually made you feel uncomfortable the way that Logan was feeling.
Yeah.
That's something that's carried over from the previous film, The Wolverine, because The Wolverine actually started to make you feel like you were alongside Logan and feeling what he was feeling, the way it was edited. And they did the same thing in this film, which is great. Then we had Peter Rasputin, aka Colossus, who was the steel one, right?
Yep. The guy who goes metallic.
And he was in the future plot, right?
Yeah, he was, and
He
been in a lot. He was in the last couple films as well, like from X-Men 2.
Yeah,
he's in the next film also.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
I think, I don't know. I'd like to retract that statement. I don't know what movie we're doing next.
Well, don't reveal to me which one it is.
Well, I don't know which one we're doing, so it probably isn't.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me either way.
Don't tell me either way. Well, I don't know, so I'm not 100% sure.
In future, don't say anything.
I don't remember.
No spoilers. Anyway. But yes, Colossus was there.
He was there, and he was doing cool stuff like he was in like X-Men 2 and 3. So
yeah.
Yep. Next character. Then we had Blink. That was the first 10 minutes of the film. Blink had a big role in the action scenes.
I liked like Power is very cool.
Some of the best set pieces in this film came from her. Or was it him? It was her, right?
It was her. It was the like Asian chick.
There's one in particular where she teleports the guy up into the air, and then falls, and then teleports him around, and then he runs into the Sentinel.
Using that momentum, that's cool.
It's really cool.
That's awesome. And I love that. I know obviously we're sort of skipping forward to direction, but I love the way the scenes are directed at the start of the film with all the different portals.
Yeah.
It's very creative.
Yeah, definitely.
And quite mind-boggling as well. Like you really had to think about what was going on.
Yeah.
It was honestly it's one of the parts of the film that we probably don't talk about much because it's not really important. But the first 10 minutes, that action scene is actually a really, really creative way to start the film. And it's very, very interesting with its action scenes, and it really captivates me when I was watching it. I like again, I'm going to say it again, I like the choice that they made to have that action scene start of the film, because it really set the tone for the future part and got the ball rolling. And I like the fact that even though obviously they're mutants, so it's like anything can happen, but I like the fact that the mutations in this film felt futuristic for some reason, like they fit the tone. If that makes sense. They felt very high tech, if that makes sense, like with Bishop and Blink, I would say. But yeah, that was really cool, I thought. And just going off a lot of these one-note characters that we had, I really like all their deaths in the future plot. Like they all get one by one knocked out. I really like that a lot.
Definitely.
Then we had Sunspot, who is a mutant with ability to project solar energy. What was Sunspot's role in this film? I can't really remember.
I do not remember. Oh, nope. Nope. Nothing.
I think I know the superhero that it is, but I can't remember exactly what it was.
Was it one of the ones that Mystique saved from the army camp?
Well, I mean, he's in First Class. Isn't he the guy who bullies Beast? Or am I getting that? Maybe it's someone else. Or maybe someone else with a completely, like, very similar power. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have no idea who this dude is.
Anyway, we'll skip past it. Then we had Warpath, who was expert tracker with super agility, reflexes, enhanced strength.
He was the guy who stood on the outside and could sense the Sentinels coming, and he was like, "Hey, they're coming."
Oh yeah, so it's just sort of part of the team, really.
Yeah, I think he died. I'm pretty sure he must have died.
Yeah. Then we had cameos at the very end from Jean Grey and Cyclops.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously I'm not 100% sure what happens in the next films, but just in isolation, I actually I grinned when Cyclops came back because I was so fucking let down when he died in X-Men 3.
Yeah.
So when he came back in this one, I was like, yes, he's back.
Yeah.
It was very. Sorry, you go first, Callum.
Yeah, I was just like I mentioned before when I said like I have a feeling that this will be like last appearances of a lot of characters. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Cyclops and Jean's last appearances, at least these versions of them. But yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I'm happy he's back because he was treated like shit in the entire trilogy.
Yeah. What were we gonna say, Anthony?
Oh no, I was gonna say it's funny how his reintroduction in this film was very accurate to his comic book role, which is just kind of a cunt.
And well, it's like the same from X-Men 1 and 2, like
where stay away from my girl. Like, oh, you're a dick and I hate you.
But I like how Logan was even happy to see Scott.
Yes,
it was like, it's back to normal.
So satisfying. It was so satisfying. And Scott's just like, what the hell?
But Scott's glasses are very different than they were.
And his hair, yeah.
Yeah. Guess when everything's right in the world, you're like, things are cooler.
It's an alternate timeline.
Mm.
And then of course we got Jean Grey as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which ties into sort of, Wolverine. I did actually say in the Wolverine review that I was happy that her walking out that door was like her last ending. But that being said, I don't mind this either. It's okay.
Yeah, because the way I get a feel from it is that I don't think Logan and Jean will pursue a relationship at all. I don't think at all. Yeah. I think so. It's nice to have that sort of she's alive again, and Logan can now move on properly.
Yeah, I think what makes this good is that the Wolverine really was the film of him getting over her. Yeah. And then this one, when she's back, he looks at her and it's more like he's just ecstatic that she's alive.
Yeah.
And then the fact that she's now with Scott again, it brings things back to where they were. And I think probably from here on, it's kind of like Wolverine's going to move on and Scott and Jean are going to be together. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, I think. It's actually, I don't know if this is an actual theory, but when Jean saw him, it's almost like she knew.
Yeah, but I don't think she does.
Yeah, I don't know. There was something about it. There was something about subconsciously, it's like she knew. It felt like the Jean from the Visions in the Wolverine.
Yeah,
almost. And I was like, ooh, there's something there, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just making it up in my head because it sounds cool.
Yeah.
But I love the scene when after they leave, Professor X is like, "Shouldn't you be teaching class, Logan?" And he's like, he says this thing, and Professor X is like, "What are you talking about?" And then when Professor X realizes that he's come back, like it's the Logan from the past, he's had to wait all those years, like the long way around, just to get there. The long way round.
I came back the long way round.
But yeah. I can understand though why someone wouldn't like that, the fact that she was brought back and Cyclops. Like, if they liked the original trilogy's approach, they might be disappointed by the fact that it's unraveled. It's basically this film completely undid X-Men 3.
Yeah, well, it did. I mean, I think that was its point too.
Yeah,
it was kind of like, we know that we fucked up the first trilogy, and we're trying to redo that, and absolutely not step over, like, on, but try our own thing at it as well.
Because me personally, I didn't like X-Men 3, so I'm okay with this sort of rewrite, and also, I don't feel like it disrespects it, even though it does wipe it, if that makes sense. Like, it's still part of Logan's memory. Whereas you compare that to something like, and I mentioned this before, and some people obviously disagree with me on this, but compare that to something like Thor Ragnarok, which doesn't really honor like the previous films. It kind of makes fun of them. Whereas I feel like this one, whilst it certainly wipes X-Men 3, doesn't really it doesn't just disrespect it. It doesn't stamp on it. It doesn't say, you're shit. It actually...
Because if it did that, it would have Logan forget it as well. Like, completely wipe it from existence and be like, all right, well, there's going to be no reference to it at all. Or no potential reference, at least.
But then again, that Ragnarok thing is completely shit now, because Love and Thunder is going to bring Jane back, so... What?
Why, though? Why?
Now Darcy's back.
I just don't understand. Fucking Darcy. What? I don't understand anybody who likes Darcy. She's the most pointless fucking character in the MCU. Fuck Darcy.
Do they not realize that we didn't like Darkwill?
Well,
but apparently, fucking everybody's like, oh yeah, they're back. It's like, you do realize they're in probably the two worst MCU films, right?
Well,
or at least potentially.
What's interesting to me is Darcy's being put into WandaVision, which is two characters she's never met. She has never interacted with them. She's only ever interacted with Thor, and that was horrible, disgusting. I don't want to see that ever again. So I'm interested to see what they do. I'm probably still gonna fucking hate her the most. But,
I actually have said before that I do quite like Thor 1. But I don't like Darcy in it. Like, she's the worst part.
Yeah.
She's awful in that, and she's even worse in Darkworld. Like, she's terrible in that. Like, probably the worst performance or writing of a character in the entire... Maybe, except... I don't know. I think you said, Callum, in the Captain Marvel review, like, her, Betty Ross, and Captain Marvel are like, on par for the worst character in the MCU.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And you said
probably
that
the worst is Captain Marvel.
Yeah, you said Captain Marvel's arguably the worst just because she's supposed to be important.
Yeah, because she's like a lead character, yeah.
Whereas like Darcy and Betty Ross are just kind of like a piece of shit. Like Darcy's bad comedy and Betty Ross's bad romance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true, both.
Yeah. Though although if you count Hulk 2003 as semi-canon, then Betty Ross ain't too bad because Jennifer Connelly.
Oh no, that one's fine. MCU,
yeah, that's a different
pure MCU. Captain Marvel is the worst character, and Darcy as well, and Betty Ross.
And there's probably one. No,
it's not. And it's not because they're women. It's because they're fucking awfully written characters.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
You know, Thor was written.
Actually, if we're gonna include some males here, just to not be completely sexist, like Abomination is terrible.
Oh yeah, like, Abomination is fucking terrible.
Fucking embarrassing.
Thor and Thor 2, I would say, is pretty bad.
Oh,
not like on the level of them.
I wouldn't say he's that bad. He's just kind of like misused, you know. Like he's just kind of. There's a few moments in that I enjoy with him and Loki.
Yeah, but that's more to do with Loki for me.
Yeah,
because Tom Hiddleston is a great actor and can make anything seemingly look good.
But to be fair, it is kind of just like the Dark Elves killed his mother, so Thor gets in a fight with him and wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick Fury in Captain Marvel is pretty bad. It's very badly.
The only reason why he's not bottom is because it's Samuel L. Jackson, and that's it.
But pure character, it's terrible because of how mischaracterized he is.
And he gets his eye scratched out by a fucking cat.
Yeah. Yeah, let's ruin Winter Soldier.
Oh,
I have this horrible feeling that like any film that takes place before like just after the events of Captain Marvel, so like say the early 2000s, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's not how he lost his eye, just because of the like fans' reaction to it. Like that's another thing they'll retcon. They'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, it was actually this is how he lost it. We got you guys, and it's like, no, you fucking didn't. You planned for him to lose it that way, and now people are mad. So you went, oh, jokes. Here's the real one.
And I would personally, say characters like just on a subject, not in terms of the way they're characterized, but just on a subjective level. There's a few characters in there that I really don't enjoy, like Baby Groot and Scourge and Korg. Like, I don't think they're like terribly written characters. It's just I just like my entire entertainment value of these films is completely neutered by them. But they're not as bad as like Darcy or Betty Ross or Captain Marvel. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, no.
But yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's another tangent. Havoc apparently was in this film.
Yeah, he was. He was one of the mutants that Mystique saved from the army place.
Ah, yes. And then also Toad was in this film as well.
Yeah, he was with Havoc in the army people.
And then there was also Ink. Apparently.
I have no idea who that is. Oh yeah, he was in the army also.
Oh well.
He was the bald guy with tattoos.
Oh yeah. And then also we had like, for example, we had like Richard Nixon as well. When there's that scene of him in the what's the room called again? That where he like sits in the chair.
Oh, the Oval Office?
Yeah, when he was in the Oval Office, I was reminded of the Series 6 opener, where like, the Impossible Astronaut, the Doctor Who Series 6 opener, where like Richard Nixon's in it, I think. I'm pretty sure it's Nixon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, yes.
Yeah. And then bloody Matt Smith sits in his chair and he's all fucking cringeworthy. Oh, get me a fez! Fucking Palpatine. That's another thing that's going to be insane about that film, is that if the rumors are true that he's in it.
Dude, I thought, the poster with Palpatine? I
keep forgetting that Matt Smith's in it. He is, though. I swear he's confirmed, though. I swear he's on the list.
Yeah.
I thought the poster was Matt Smith, but apparently it's a figure of...
Yeah, it's just an action figure.
I find that really funny.
Matt Smith is going to be in fucking Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, yeah, Callum, did you see that Revenge of the Sith version that I sent you?
Oh, yeah.
Anthony sent me that one. It looks so good, eh? I have the high ground. And Palpatine actually looks like Palpatine. But yeah. Fucking Star Wars.
They've got to ruin it all.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm excited for the TV series because it's different with a TV series that it could be good because it's different from a film. Same with Mandalorian.
Mm.
No, I've destroyed any hype I had. Like I mentally I was like, no, don't have hype for anything.
I bet they'll be better than the new films.
You kind of got to, Callum. You kind of got to put some like. I know, obviously, you've stated that well, Rise of Skywalker looks shit, but you kind of got to put in perspective that ever since Anthony and I walked out of The Last Jedi in cinemas, like Star Wars has just been like everything's bad. Like we have absolutely nothing nice to say about it.
Well,
And
I think as well.
we've just been on an absolute downer since then. So anything that's even looks positive, like we're like Hawkeye of Endgame, we're like, don't give us hope. Like when I saw Kenobi, I'm just like, no, don't give me hope. Like you just can't tell me that's going to be good because I don't know until I see it.
I think as well, if it is like, say you have a Venom situation where it's not good, but it's not complete shit, you're a little bit positive because you're like, well, I expected the worst and it wasn't the worst, so it's it's okay, better than nothing. Rather than if you're like you go in excited and it's not that great and you go, oh, sad.
Well, I mean, when you say Venom, that makes me think like, yeah, of course, because it's going to be Ewan McGregor, who's going to be like the Tom Hardy, where he's great, but then everything else is shit.
Yeah. Well, there's my perfect example.
I mean, what is it going to be though? Is it just going to be him and a bunch of Tusken Raiders? Like,
yeah, because they've already explored like the story and the animated shit, I believe, him and Darth Maul and all that crap. So I don't know what this show is going to be about. Yeah, well, that's my whole like. I'm like, well, why do you need this series?
Be like
with
probably like a few years after Episode 3, I'd assume.
Oh, I see.
That long after, because obviously there's only a certain amount of time they can do.
Yeah, before like that series, whatever series that was.
Yeah,
so they have a 20-year time frame.
They'll probably put in like CGI Alec Guinness or something.
Oh god. What, he's gonna do a Spock with himself and go, oh, did you do this? And Ewan McGregor will be like, no, should I?
No,
like,
I don't mean time travel. I mean it's gonna end like when he's old.
Yeah.
Right before New Hope. Like you know how Rogue One does it.
Yeah, possibly. Who knows?
Did you see that Disney confirmed that there'll be no R-rated content on Disney Plus?
Oh well.
Which is dumb because not everything has to be rated R, but the fact that nothing can be is really dumb.
Yeah. Well, just Moon Knight.
Classic Disney. Classic
Moon
Disney.
Knight, R-rated Moon Knight would have been cool.
Well, the thing is, like, they won't put anything R-rated, but they will put, like, the fucking blackface cartoons in it.
Jesus
like, that's
Christ.
just so stupid.
Because Disney is stupid.
Oh, well. Yeah, we don't care about racism, we only care about, like, concerned parents.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. If I see a head being chopped off, I'm going to write a very worded letter. It's like that Triple H promo. Is I'm going to tweet my displeasure.
Gonna have a rant on tout.
I might even send out an Instagram.
Oh dear. Anyway, let's get to the writers of X-Men Days of Future Past. So we start with Simon Kinberg, who was part of The Last Stand and First Class. Mm-hmm. He's also done films such as XXX State of the Union, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Jumper. I think I've read this out before. He did like The Martian and a whole bunch of stuff. Like he's been heavily involved in X-Men since X-Men 3. So he's sort of just part of the team. He also is a co-creator of Rebels. So take that for what you will. And then on top of that, we've also got Jane Goldman, who was part of... I've recognized her face. Yep, she was part of First Class. She hasn't done much, but she's the one with like the weird pink hair. I think I talked about it last time. And then you've also got Matthew Vaughn, who was also part of First Class. So you got a whole bunch of people from First Class working on this one, which makes sense because in a lot of ways, this is a majority like a First Class sequel.
It is, yeah.
And I thought the writing of this film, apart from obviously the, you know, Ellen Page's character being a time traveling fucking mutant, apart from that, it was pretty solid all the way through, I would say. And the sequencing of events I really like as well.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, unlike because a lot of the other X-Men films kind of have like choppy bits in it, like even First Class has a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one felt a lot cleaner than some of the others. What did you think, Anthony?
No, yeah, I thought it was a very slick and smooth film in terms of as you can get with these X-Men movies.
In contrast to like X-Men 1 and 2, which are just so all over the place.
Absolutely, Jesus Christ.
Especially the second one. Like the second one's so fucking long. It's ridiculous.
Well, I find it funny how like everyone's like, "Oh yeah, X2, it's great," and it's like, yeah, no, it's not.
I saw a website that said it's the best one. Like out of even like Logan and Deadpool, like it's the best one. I'm like, what?
No, they are fools.
Like I would say that's like a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10 film. Like it's not like the best X-Men film. That's just silly.
Right.
Maybe for its time, but not now.
No, absolutely not.
Hasn't aged the same way that something like Spider-Man 2 has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with your adjective. The writing was very slick and well handled. Of course, Bryan Singer came back as director for this one, which I think was a good choice because not only do you have the writers of First Class, but you bring back the director from the first two X-Men films to sort of bring in what made the original trilogy characters like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart's characters and like all the other ones that they had there. I think what makes this film such a good one is how it combines the newer films and the older films together.
Yeah.
And in terms of like its cinematography, I thought it was very good. I thought the direction of this film was very well handled. Wasn't like as atmospheric as the Wolverine, but I thought the sequencing, the point and shoot, all the action scenes, it was all very well done and looked really nice. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I think the direction is great. I think it's very slick, it's very clean, and it's very, very well shot, I would say. I think a lot of the CGI shots look really good as well, I would say. It's probably the best looking.
Yeah, the best CGI so far.
This is probably the best looking X-Men film so far.
Yeah. Yeah, again, like I said, it doesn't quite have the same atmospheric effect that the Wolverine had, but it didn't need to because it was a completely different type of film.
Yeah.
Wasn't as grounded or like focused on one character, and it wasn't part of like an weird part of the world like Japan. Like it was very much felt like X-Men that we know, but in a more modern context.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you echo that, Anthony? Like you thought the direction was good?
I would, yeah. It was very it reminded me of an X-Men comic where it's kind of like we're in the future, oh shit, now we're in the past. Oh, now we're gonna go and do this, and here's this set piece, and now we're doing this because we're in this location. I
love the scenes that cut to like the audio, the crowd cameras, like the 4x4.
Yeah. And it's like cool. It's like the 60s type of old shitty grainy film.
But what I like about it is it's not like over the top and confusing like Ang Lee is.
Yeah.
It's not like Transformers, like Life of Pi, when the aspect ratio changes ridiculously and it's just so annoying.
No, well, it's like it has a shot of the people recording it on their shitty old little devices, and then it cuts to them, like, their recording, where it's all crappy and grainy. And it makes sense. You go, oh yeah, that person was filming, so this is them filming it. rather than Ang Lee, where it's like, here's this, whoa, we're gonna flip it around, and here's it in a little panel and fucking speech bubbles. Ugh.
Let's have the villain die in a ball of fire and there's a freeze frame and it surrounds him.
Christ.
Let's have Hulk jump through multiple panels. Oh well. Bloody Life of Pi when we have the flying fish fly outside the black bars because it's a 3D film. You were doing so well. Life of Pi CGI is actually really good. It's just Ang Lee's directional choices are so irritating. Oh, we gotta make it interesting. Bloody. But yeah, the direction of Days of Future Past, very, very good.
Yeah.
Very modern.
Yeah, pretty much, I would say.
And then the music was done by John Ottman. And I want to straight away say I thought the score of this film was excellent.
Yeah.
It was so good. And I think I just remembered, because I said it before, like to remind myself to say it again. The music that plays when Wolverine comes back to the fixed present, it's very, very good. It's very warm. I really, really like the music in this film. I thought it was just it really made you feel the emotions that you really wanted to feel at the time of each scene.
Yeah.
It was intense, it was powerful. And going off his filmography or discography of feature films, he's done films such as Public Access, The Usual Suspects. He did Halloween H2O. He did X2, so he was the score person for X2. Fantastic Four 2005, interestingly.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer as well. He was also the score person for Superman Returns. Oh dear. And The Nice Guys. But yeah, I really thought he stood out, and I think compared to the other X-Men work he did before that, I really thought his score had a much more distinct feel to it. I appreciate it a lot. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that, yeah. I think it was all really good and very well done.
That's one of the biggest improvements I think has come in the recent films that we've watched, is that the scores feel more distinct, whereas in the first couple they felt very generic. Especially X-Men 1. The score of X-Men 1 is very generic and not memorable at all.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, all the films are really getting, like, the last three, I would say, from talking like First Class, Wolverine, and then this one, they're starting to feel very stylish, and that's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, top marks. Shall we move on to the trivia?
Go for it.
Oh, okay, so let's go. The filmmakers selected the Days of Future Past storyline because it would allow the filmmakers to reconcile any continuity dissonances with the X-Men film franchise. The time travel element also allowed actors and actresses from the first three films and First Class to appear in the same film together. That was a good choice.
Also fucking up Kitty Pryde's powers.
Yeah, that's the only problem, is that they had to do that to make the story work, and I don't like that. It's such a like massive problem. And it's just like, oh, it doesn't matter. Just watch the story. It's like, oh, come on, guys, you can do better than that. I mean, I don't want them to do like a time machine, because that would just be dumb. Like, of course you have to make it a mutation, because that's like the best way to do it.
Yeah. Well, you win a movie with, about mutation, and it's like, oh, let's put it as a mutation. Anyways.
The script called for Logan to wake up in 1973 in boxer shorts. Hugh Jackman vetoed this in favor of waking nude, saying in Australia, if you're next to a really good-looking girl, you're not getting out of with boxer shorts on or briefs or anything. Like in Australia, you gotta be naked if you're next to a girl.
Yeah.
Like you gotta make it very obvious that you had sex.
I like to think that like Patrick Stewart was there as well as as well as Ian McKellen. Like the old dudes were there, and he's like, "Nah, mate, gotta be naked." And they're both just like, "Yeah, yes, that makes plenty of sense."
Good storytelling, Logan. Oh dear.
Also, there's one thing I want to say that I forgot to mention. I love the scene between Charles and Logan at the end of the film when Charles realizes that Logan is fully back. Like you see that on his face, like it's done so well, and it actually almost like choked me up a bit because I thought that was done so well, and it's like
so
like
good.
he's like the man that he met back in the 70s is like fully back for the first time. So it's like that's very well done.
God, imagine having to wait 50 years for that.
And it just happened on a random day as well. It's just like it could happen at any random day.
Like that must be like he must have like his brain must have like orgasmed. Like he's like, what? He's back.
Yeah.
Do you think any time before that, Professor X was like, just like that time in Washington, Logan, and Logan's like, what the fuck are you on about? And then like after this, he's like, I understand now. I get it.
Well, because he forgot everything that's happened to him in the past. That's why he needs to be caught up with everything.
Yeah.
He's got to learn about 50 years of history.
Oh, bloody hell. According to Peter Dinklage, Bryan Singer picked him to play Bolivar Trask because of his height, stating, "With my dwarfism, I'm a bit of a mutant. I can't move metal or anything, but I thought of it as self-loathing. Deep down, Trask is quite sensitive about that aspect of himself."
Yeah, that I would say, like, I think they even made a joke about it in the film. So, like, yeah.
That is humble for him to say, though. It's a lot more than just him being a dwarf. Because it's not just him being a dwarf. He is the dwarf actor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is that good.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Peter Dinklage doesn't want to, gloat about that. Like he's very professional.
Yeah.
I just love that behind the scenes thing of Game of Thrones where he's like, so they put all the innocent people in the crypt, and we're fighting zombies. So why would you put them in the crypt where there's dead people?
Well, Tyrion's that smart. Yeah, it's Tyrion that isn't smart.
Oh dear. What a terrible season of television. Remember how Jake gave it a 0.5?
Mm-hmm.
And then that was topped 2 weeks later by Anthony's 0.1.
Yep.
Because it's shit. It still is. To this day.
Oh dear. Hate that being like very anxious because like people on Twitter have been like, oh, I want to get Andrew Garfield now that Sony's got it back. I'm like, no.
And if they do, they're the biggest fools out because they'll go under again.
Oh, have you read?
Learn. Well, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 was fucking the worst of all the Spider-Man so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I agree. It's in my opinion, I know Callum disagrees slightly, but probably not too much. In my opinion, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the worst thing I've reviewed on this channel out of anything I've seen. It's so bad. It's just garbage. Worse than Warriors of the Deep. Worse than fucking Invasion of Time. Worse than Idiot's Lantern. It's just god awful.
The only thing I would say is the worst that's been reviewed is Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I know.
But then it's followed by Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
We're both on the same level, but one's more law-breaking for an important franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jake would say The Long Night. He fucking hates The Long Night. Because the one reason he watched Game of Thrones was to find out what the White Walkers are all about. And
Like
then,
most people.
And then, poof, they're gone.
No, they don't matter.
Yeah, he thought The Long Night was worse than The Idiot's Lantern. Like, that surprised me. I was like, holy shit. Long Night's an episode with, like, great direction, great music, great actors. But no.
It's worse.
But it's worse because it ruins an entire TV show. Or Idiot's Lantern's just a stupid little...
It's an episode that is quickly forgotten about.
Yeah. Significance is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why Hellbent is worse than something like Fear Her.
Yeah.
But oh well, Clara's the best. Yeah. She's the best because she's the best because she's the best.
Because I choose her to be the best, and your opinions or even views don't matter. Clara's the best. I choose for you.
Fucking Moffat.
You chose wrong.
What does it matter to you anyway? Everything.
That was a nice little meme.
That was so funny.
It's a great meme.
Go check out Editor Callum's channel. He did a video about me. It was funny.
Well, it was like the channel because both you and Adam fucking hate Hellbent.
Yep. Oh, there's other Moffat stuff I think shit as well.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like Wedding of River Song and Let's Kill Hitler and Asylum of the Daleks.
Asylum of the Daleks, yeah.
Fuck. God. Oh. Rancid shit. Dr. Winter the Wardrobe as well. Bloody awful. The worst Christmas special. Not just of Doctor Who, but anything I've ever seen. Like, it's the worst. Oh, yep. They create a TARDIS because of Mum. Because motherly love.
Because love.
Mama.
Because motherly love on Christmas Day. Fuck off.
It beats everything.
Terrible.
Because that's what the TARDIS's main power is. It's love.
No, it's not. Not even Russell T Davies did that. The TARDIS's power is not love. It's fucking like it's an organism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. No, but hang on. He doesn't even use the TARDIS. He doesn't even use the TARDIS. They just go into this like box that leads them to fucking Narnia or something. But it's like apparently
that's what they're referencing, yeah.
But it's apparently on Androzani for some reason, or near it, which is a so stupid reference because not only does it now attaches one of the worst episodes ever to one of the best episodes ever, but it also like embarrasses like a famous actor as well. I think there's like who's that comedian actor that's in it? In Doctor Winter and the Wardrobe, I can't remember his name.
I haven't watched Doctor Winter Wardrobe in full ever, I don't think.
So surely it's Adam Sandler. Surely it's Adam Sandler.
No, it's not Adam Sandler.
That makes me sad.
But there's an actor, comedian in there that Adam loves that is completely embarrassed in that. God. That episode is like in the middle of my least favorite period of the whole fucking show.
Oh yeah, same.
Like closing time, Wedding of River Song, Doctor Winter and the Wardrobe, Pond Life, Asylum of the Daleks, and Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Like those episodes all in a row are all terrible. And it's just like a combination of just like the worst of Moffat and the worst of Chris Chibnall. Well, the second worst of Chris Chibnall. Because we all know what the worst of Chris Chibnall is. But Anthony hasn't seen it yet, so don't spoil that. Oh well. Maybe he'll like it. Who knows? But Callum, I recently rewatched that review I did with Adam on that Chibnall episode.
Yeah.
You know, on the best video on my whole channel.
Yeah.
Jesus. Like a lot of the subs said, like the review is more entertaining than the episode itself.
Yeah. I wonder why.
Because an imagining of Doctor Who Wipeout is more entertaining.
Yeah, the fucking Patine.
Someone needs to do. The funny thing is, the Pating's like not even like in the top 10 worst things about that episode. It's just like kind of a shitty little thing. There's so many things wrong with that fucking awful train wreck. But we'll get to that. We'll forget about that. Anthony's still got a lot of Series 10 to get through, so long way before we get to that one. Originally, Josh Hellman was going to be cast as Juggernaut, but Juggernaut was written out of the film, and was off. And then he became the role of young William Stryker. Juggernaut, bitch.
Yeah, where would they have put him in this film? Like,
well, apparently in the role of William Stryker.
fuck.
According to Bryan Singer, he had a 2-hour discussion with James Cameron about how to make the time travel concept feasible and workable within the movie. The concepts the two discussed include quantum physics, alternate universes, and string theory. So you had a 2-hour discussion with James Cameron, and the best you could come up with was, let's give a character powers that she's never had before.
Was that why James Cameron fucking hated Endgame? Because he's like, they did time travel wrong. Here's how I should have done it.
Even though he talked about quantum physics, then that's what the time travel.
We know the real reason James Cameron hates Endgame. We know the real reason because it's number one, bitch.
Yeah. It won't be beat for like decades now.
Your fucking 3D animated blue anus trap was beaten.
The fuck are you on about, dude?
Avatar.
I know, but like. Blue anus trap. Jesus, man.
That's what I came up with. Remember how Whitney said he likes that film?
Oh well, why? What's the main character's name? I don't even know because I don't give a shit to remember.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember how Whitney said his favorite Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield?
He's a fool.
Well, he's
and he thinks that Love Island is better than Game of Thrones. Fucking hell. And he said the reason why is because it's never boring. Because entertainment's the only thing he cares about.
Entertainment is good stories and well-written stories.
Not just a bunch of fucking slutty, tanned young adults sitting by a pool shouting at each other with fast cuts. Let's have 20 cuts a second, make it look like a fucking action scene from a Christopher Nolan film. Let's make shaky cam to make her tits look bigger. Fucking Love Island. Awful. Awful television, in my opinion. In my opinion!
It is. That's just your opinion.
Just my opinion.
It's just your opinion, though.
What if Mauler did an EFAP of Love Island?
Jesus Christ.
You know, guys, I'm genuinely worried that this is not going to work. It's going to be shit. Oh my fucking god. What does she say?
Who wrote this?
Yeah. Who wrote this shit? We've only gotten through 30 minutes of this and it's not even finished. Rags, how does this make you feel? Oh dear. I still haven't watched EFAT 50 yet. but I don't know if
I pretty much watched it, listened to it while I was working. Really.
yeah, I don't know when I'm ever gonna watch it because it's
part 3 is the best because of the memes.
Oh yeah,
the memes are fucking incredible.
So do you reckon
there's one meme of I don't think it's out yet, but part 3 is absolutely the best one.
Okay, so should I just skip to part 3 then? Because I've only...
when it comes, the first 2 hours is basically memes.
Okay,
it's fucking great.
Good. All right, because it's a 24-hour stream, so I'm not sure if I want to watch it.
I think there's some of the videos that they covered were that they did one on a video that's why Civil War sucks, and they obviously debunked it. There was another of defending The Dark Knight Rises, which was a video by Brian Table, and it was fucking awful video.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. The funniest thing I've ever seen on EFAP was when that guy said that his favorite scene in the Star Wars ever is when fucking
Patrick Williams with his fucking godlike brain. My favorite part of the new Star Wars is Luke taking this milk and drinking it for the Rey.
Fucking
what an addition to this deep lore saga.
It was so funny. I couldn't believe it.
You're watching movies wrong.
And then there's that one of that guy from that hates the original trilogy, the fucking Luke Skywalker looks like a lesbian, fucking it was so funny. And what did he say? He said Obi-Wan Kenobi's a bad character because he's irrelevant in the second and third film, and Maul's like, he's fucking dead.
Yeah, I hate when dead characters aren't relevant in future films.
Yeah, no, it's just so annoying that they're not there. Why would you die? That's stupid.
Why did you die, you fucking irrelevant character?
Yeah. And he said Han Solo doesn't have any special skills because everyone else in the universe can shoot a gun and fly. And he also said that the rebels were evil because they didn't have a reason to fight back, and they're like, the Imperials blew up a whole fucking planet. What? Of course they did. It's massive terrorism on a universal scale. And he said that Princess Leia's not a good character because she's only best friend hot.
What?
And he says the
Is it?
and he's like, no, I wouldn't say that Obi-Wan Kenobi's the worst character. That's got to be the gay butler C-3PO. He's worse than Jar Jar Binks. Oh dear.
Gosh.
And whenever he talked about Chewbacca, he'd only refer to him as the walking carpet. And then Maul was like, this guy is so racist. Stanley was offered a cameo but opted out so he could attend a Fan Expo Canada in Toronto.
Yeah, he hasn't really been in any of the X-Men films. He's only been in a couple.
But he is in all the MCU films except for Far From Home.
I wonder why.
Yeah. But I'm glad that his send-off was classic Stanley in Endgame. That was actually a very good move.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. But no, apparently Stanley fucking hates fucking bi people, even though... Because he doesn't make Peter bi.
Give Gwen Stacy...
Why does
Sony will
every
make him gay?
character have to be bi? Fucking hell.
Avi Arad will make him gay for the money.
Yeah. We get more money. If we make
give him relationship with Harry.
Fuck.
Why though? What's the point of it?
Oh,
money.
So good.
Hey.
Bring back James Franco.
You do it. You won't.
Like when he like pulls off the mask when he's about to kill Spider-Man, he sees Peter and he's like, no, boy, we're in love.
He gives him a little kiss.
And then and then his father comes in the mirror and he says, "Now I know the truth about you, Harry." Oh, fuck me, Harry.
Jesus.
That's an inside joke between me
How
and
many
Anthony.
pieces of trivia have we gone through? Like
Sorry. I better rush through them because we're almost at 3 hours, which is like the cap limit for Skype. I'll try and get through. It's not the cap limit, but like if I go past 3 hours, it means I have to edit it, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Um. Shit, I wish I wrote these down because then I could rush through them. It's all my fault. I'm just thinking, like, how does the oh yeah, no, it does. I was just thinking before because the post-credit scene from Wolverine, but then it does make sense because at the start of this film you see them on the ship together.
Yeah.
So
In the future, yeah.
The direct lead-in.
Yep.
So that all makes sense, except for the fact that Wolverine's claws come back for no reason.
Just right over it.
You could have just said it's an attachment. So he just has no claws.
Oh yeah, I just got some adamantium and slapped it onto my hands. Oh, it's easy. It's like in the Torchwood episode Cyborg when they're like, "Oh yeah, brain surgery, it's easy. Brain transplant, just 5 minutes. It's easy." But Anthony wouldn't know that because Tooth Gap stopped them watching before he got to that episode. Hey, Anthony.
Oh, well, you see.
Oh yeah, Rogan, the extended cut, only has 4 lines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she wasn't really necessary. I'm kind of happy she wasn't in it because I'm not a big fan, really. It's like another New Zealand performance that I'm not happy with.
Wait, is she in New Zealand? Anna Paquin?
Yeah, she's a New Zealander.
I had no idea.
Mm.
Oh no, she is.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So you know. But we're not far away from Attack of the Clones, and I might have something positive to say about a New Zealander. Possible. We'll see what happens.
Get him, Dad. Get him.
Oh, not that one. Fuck. The other one. Maybe. We'll see. I haven't watched Attack of the Clones since like 2014, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I just found
it. I've been avoiding it.
Found that scene I was talking about with Magneto.
Rebecca Imogen was the only actress from the first 3 films not to return for this film. But that wouldn't make sense if she did, because in X-Men 3 she got like neutered.
Yeah. Well, I guess they could have just brought her back. Just it's because it's the same person. I don't know.
Didn't need to do that.
Mm.
Though it's not explicitly explained in this movie how Magneto got his powers back after losing them in The Last Stand, his powers started to return to him at the end of that movie. This would explain how Rogue got her powers back in the extended edition.
Yeah. I really like that scene at the end of the 3rd movie where he's at the park playing chess.
Yeah.
That's like a good twist at the end, not the one from this one, where it's like, oh, shit, why? Who knows? Guess we'll find out in Apocalypse. Yeah. Or maybe not, because it's been 50 years.
Oh, well.
Oh my god, so Jennifer Lawrence, Halle Berry, and Anna Paquin have won Oscars.
Yeah.
but Hugh Jackman, Michael Fassbender, and Ian McKellen have not. Or Patrick Stewart hasn't even been nominated.
The fuck's wrong with you?
Fucking the actress for Rogue won an Oscar, and Brie Larson. And like Patrick Stewart's not even been nominated, and Ian McKellen hasn't even won one, and neither has Hugh Jackman, and neither has Robert Downey Jr. You know, it's just a bit silly. It's just a bit ridiculous, don't you think? All right, that's not trivia. Callum, give your conclusion and rating out of 10 for X-Men Days of Future Past.
I thought Days of Future Past was a really good, really fun, very intriguing film, and I was not disappointed at all going into it with my pretty high expectations of it. I think it's well directed, it's very well acted, the plot is very interesting, and actually, when it's a time travel film, its problems isn't with the time travel itself, which I'm very surprised by. So yeah, the problems I have with it are the one big one with how does this person have time travel powers when her powers are walking through walls and stuff. It makes no sense. But other than that, I think this is a very entertaining film. Like I said, plenty of great performances, and is definitely probably the best X-Men film I've seen so far in this run. I will probably think that Logan will probably be it pretty easily, but that's not a knock on this film. So, just rating, I think I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really, really good film.
Right, Anthony.
This film wasn't good. Is not what I'm going to say, because I'm going to say,
That's there.
I've subverted you once more.
This
film was
subversion.
This film was. I was surprised to how much I liked it, because I'd completely forgotten everything about it, and that's a good thing, because I got back to watching it today and I was like, "Yo, this film's actually pretty good. It's all right. All the characters are done really well. The powers are shown off pretty nicely, with the exception of Kitty Pryde. What's going on there? She doesn't have time travel powers. Whatever. Anyways, looking past that, really nice to see the Sentinels done well on film. They had all their nice purple and white colors. Was a big fan. Hugh Jackman was in there, but he wasn't fucking like just banked in on. They were kind of like, here's his purpose. He's done his purpose. Let's make room for the rest of the actors. So it's, you know, this film has a lot of really good actors and actresses, and they're all used kind of to the potential, I would say. So I'd give this film overall probably an 8.5, an 8.5 is pretty good.
Right, yeah. X-Men Days of Future Past, very happy. Going into this series, I had very low expectations for this film. Reason being is because I've heard bad reviews for this one before. So I was worried, especially considering, like, whenever you talk to someone about the X-Men franchise, they're always like, don't touch that, it's all bad films, none of them are good, except for, like, Logan and Deadpool, that's it. The rest of them are shit. This one, I remember always getting quite mixed views, and it's a time travel film. I was very worried about what it was going to do, but thankfully it was good. I really enjoyed this. And I know that this is most likely going to be a controversial opinion, but I think this kind of film with its concept actually exceeds a lot of the MCU films for me, because I find a lot of the MCU films to have quite a generic plot structure, whereas this one for me really digs deep into characters that we've seen before. It repairs problems that came with the previous films. It does a time travel plot which is very dangerous and risky, but does it really well, apart from obviously the Kitty Pryde bullshit. I love the way it connects characters like Professor X, Magneto, and Mystique to their past and future selves. I love Logan's point of view in this film, and just overall was a delight. And out of I'm going to say, out of all the X-Men films that I have seen, this is my favorite. 8 out of 10. Very good. I'm looking forward to what comes next. Whether it's good or bad, it's put me in the right mood. and I'm happy that I didn't hate it like other people seem to. I'll be very interested to see like what someone who doesn't like this film would say about it. I'm interested to see what their point of view is on it. I would imagine it probably has something to do with the fact that it kind of undoes a lot of the stuff from the original trilogy, because maybe someone who likes those ones might not like this one because of that. But yeah, 8 out of 10, really solid, really good. Now, I'm just going to just so I can remind myself which one's next. Ah, yes, I wasn't wrong. The next film we're going to be watching is Deadpool. And funnily enough, at Quiz, I think it was it this week or was it last week? No, it was this week.
It was this week. It was yesterday. Yeah.
There was in the film and TV section, I think, or something like that. It was like
the very first question.
Yeah, it showed a video of a film and it said, "What is this from?" And it was Deadpool. So I got a sneak peek into Deadpool at Quiz this week, so that's interesting.
Did you get that one right?
Yeah, guess who got it right? Guess who guessed it? You'll never believe it. It was Daniel. Daniel, who doesn't he didn't even know that it was an X-Men film. He doesn't even know that it's a superhero film. I'm just like, you realize Deadpool's an X-Men film? He's like, oh, what's that?
What is this X-Men?
Yeah.
Well, when I watched First Class at his house, and he's like, "Oh, isn't that a kids thing?" I'm like, "No, X-Men is fucking like. Have you seen the Wolverine extended edition? Like, it's not for kids."
No.
Anyway, but yeah, Deadpool. I'm really looking forward to Deadpool because obviously it's a very popular film. So, yeah. Really intrigued, especially, and also I think after this sort of mammoth Days of Future Past one, it'll be nice to have something a bit different, like
just something nice, just something nice,
something nice and offbeat, and doesn't have baggage. It's just like, and also it's hopefully gonna make up for the shit show that was Origins.
Oh yeah,
Weapon 11, whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah, non-Deadpool.
Yeah, but yeah, really looking forward to watching that next time.
It'll be the first one that I've already seen, so see how it holds up for me.
Oh wait, I have this one on Blu-ray. I just realized.
Oh yeah, this is the first one where it's going to be you've seen it and I haven't.
Yeah, one out of the three films that I've seen.
Interestingly, because I had that with The Wolverine, like when you had absolutely no idea what it was going to be like, and then I had already seen it before. Whereas now it's the opposite way around. You've seen it and I haven't. So it's interesting now. We're now moving into the era of X-Men where you're the one in control and I'm not.
Yeah, because Logan will be soon as well. It'll be like in probably like 2 films time.
And Deadpool 2 you've seen as well, right?
And Deadpool 2 I've seen as well.
Yeah. And I suppose Anthony's the only one that's seen Apocalypse. So
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then none of us have seen Dark Phoenix.
No.
Not that we want to, but
we have to. Who knows? Maybe it's great.
Yeah.
Maybe the Amazing Spider-Man 2 will be great. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, we'll see you guys next time for Deadpool. Really looking forward to that. See ya.